an F-18 at the 90. Stand clear to port catwalk and fire line. Stand by to recover aircraft. This is a drill. Through the ages, it bravely gave it life. It's breaking sword. The mighty will still follow this song. From freedom, the battle rages on. Every girl in the corner said, boy, I wanna walk in, turn into a ballroom bitch. Ballroom bitch.
My name's Richie Honori from the Multi-Platinum Duke of Suite. We all can agree to help our vets. Music changes the world. We're musicians bounded together, making a difference for our vets. With the Veterans First Initiative, you can make that difference too. Go to vetsinneed.org, vetsinneed.org. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. This is Caesar with the Battle Rhythm Podcast. I am here yet on another Tuesday night full of, I don't know, anxiety, meds, and let's call energy. So we're going to call that energy. I am drinking my, what is it today? Alani Orange Kiss. And if you like 0% sugar, this is a great thing, especially for us diabetics. This is a great alternative to regular soda. So yes, I am making a shameless plug on that, because like I said, that is a very, 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 very good alternative to your normal sugary high fructose stuff. So yes, it is. Today's episode, it is brought to you by Texoma Harley Davidson, which is my newest sponsor. So thank you, Texoma Harley Davidson. Kenny, thank you so much for being one of our sponsors, one of our main sponsors now. You are more than welcome, sir, to come anytime you want. We will be having him actually pretty soon. They are going to be doing some great events here in the Texoma area. So we are going to be having Kenny and his team come out every once in a while to do some promo stuff. So we'll get to some of that earlier or later. I mean, also want to thank EGA Construction out of Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth area, Texas. And thank you so much to Lynn Toomer. He is the owner. He's a great sponsor for us. Also, Scott's Construction LLC out of the Alabama area. So thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you so much for Scott's Construction LLC. And how could I forget the American Legion Writers? They are one of my sponsors. They are sponsoring the Battle Rhythm Podcast website. So thank you, American Legion Writers Post 231, the Missing in Action post, and all my writers. That is my group, by the way. So thank you guys so much for believing in me and being my sponsor for the website. So thank you. That is coming very, very soon. That is currently in development, so we'll be having that very, very soon. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring into the stage, and it's not saying like, you know, every time I say something, bring into the stage, I always think, you know, in adult entertainment. So there's nothing like that, not at all. But I do want to bring in our guest of the week, and it's going to be an awesome interview of the week. So without further ado, the interview of the week is Promising People. Good afternoon. Chad Walker is one of the representatives for Promising People. Chad, how are you doing, sir?
Caesar, nice to see you. Doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. And actually, we have yet another guest with us. I wanted to give you a proper introduction first, but we also have Jonathan. Jonathan, how are you doing, sir? You are the medical side of Promising People.
Thank you, Caesar. I'm doing wonderful, and thank you so much for letting us join you today. Can you hear me okay? Is the audio okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. If you get loud, I will tell you. You know what? I'm going to cut you off right away, so you're Beautiful. Fine. No, but first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I know I did a 5 to 7 minute video or interview with you guys because, as you know, we are actually in the almost like 2 weeks from the event. The event that we're talking about, it's going to be a telethon that is going to be for veterans, right? It's going to be put together by people for a new America and also Veterans First Initiative. And this thing is going to be freaking awesome. It's going to be going on June 7th from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in the Pacific area, it's going to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's going to be awesome. So here we go. It's going to be 4 different cities: Phoenix, Toronto, Chicago, and LA. And every one of those cities will have 2 hours worth of music, entertainment, and also interviews with a lot of different veteran organizations. So for my bit of it is these gentlemen here with Promising People. They are actually one of the organizations that actually has partnered up with People for New America and Veterans First Initiative. So gentlemen, please, let's start with you, Chad. Let's talk about the reason, the why. What is your why being involved with the First Veterans Initiative?
Well, I appreciate you asking the question, Caesar. First and foremost, I'm blessed to be able to work with an organization that not only supports what veterans do and people that have been impacted by justice recidivism, as well as for people that have disabilities. So we kind of come across the spectrum. We help everybody, but we really have focused in those areas.
Right.
As a veteran myself, both on the federal side and working for the U.S. Army for 9 years, thank you for letting me jump out of fun airplanes. They can keep all the DNA samples that they like. But,
you gave some blood, didn't you?
that's right. But I learned how to put together a Jeep with 5 other guys really good. So I've got that going for me on the resume, which is nice. So, at the end of the day, in all sincerity, obviously, I think most vets have a very good sense of humor, and that's kind of what keeps us sane and going out there. But what Promising People brings is probably the easiest thing for me to encapsulate in a single sentence: is we sell hope. And that's a powerful statement when you're able to do that. We do a lot of different things, which are very interesting and neat. We'll get a chance to talk more about those. But my personal reason for being here is to be able to reach the masses. We're a Christian-based organization, but we're also a veteran-based organization. And to be able to accomplish both of those things is pretty unusual. And to be able to do that is the reason why, I'm here and continue to work and handle our mission every single day.
That is so awesome that so I'm part of the VFW. I'm pretty involved within the VFW. So one of the things that we focus on within the VFW is that you always continue to serve, right? And a day of service that we actually just had this earlier this month in May. That's one thing that people always forget, that even though you're out of the military and you're not serving in that capacity anymore, even as the federal government, you're not in that capacity, you continue to serve in other ways. And people don't realize how much you actually serve within other organizations that are actually serving veterans, and not just veterans. I'm sure you guys' training program actually extends to civilians and also family members and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Absolutely. People with disabilities, from all walks of life. I mean, the only 2 types of people that we've currently run into as far as a designation, and we can get more into this, or unfortunately, I don't have any programs currently, nor does Jonathan, for anyone under the age of 15. So if they're over the age of 15, we have something to help them.
That's awesome.
No cap on that. And the only other ailment, unfortunately, that I can't help right now is someone that can't see. If they don't have the gift of sight, they can be deaf or hard of hearing. We have a lot of different opportunities for those types of individuals. Obviously, we know a lot of veterans have physical limitations as well. So when I say we can help everybody, I mean we can help everybody.
Yeah. You guys know this is a live show, right? Can you guys see that flickering?
Oh, I could see something, and then it muffled.
Yeah, so it's a live show. You can definitely tell it's a live show. So there's a flickering. So my fan light has been going off and on, and I can't change the light bulbs because it's a complete. It's a whole LED set. So it's just driving me crazy. I'm like, man, I'm about to have a seizure right now. So I had to go turn it off. So I apologize for that. But I didn't realize that you guys actually offered the training to anyone over the age of 15. That is amazing. I didn't realize that's it is. Now, is the training, is there a cost involved for anyone that's actually doing this? Or is this any based on grants that people may have, or that you're able to acquire?
So it's all the above, Caesar. There's billions of dollars that are out there at the federal and state levels. And because of the strategic partners that we have, for example, with universities, for someone that is wanting to extend their education, whether that be to a degree or a non-degree certification, et cetera, where they want to access federal programs such as Pell, or for those of us that contributed to the Montgomery GI Bill,
Right.
or for those service members that obviously have a spouse and meet the qualifications. There's a post 9/11 process of transferring funds. But we also work with organizations in vocation rehabilitation that help. And that's not just physical limitations, it's emotional and mental limitations as well. We work with different what are called U.S.A funds at the state level. And we work with organizations that help with doing pre-internship and internship programs, so that essentially what all of that means is that we explore all of the federal and state funding sources for which someone is potentially eligible. We also then pair them up with, because there's a lot of other things besides the educational components that can help support those individuals. And we do help the entire family. But as an example, Caesar, that while they're getting training, if with vocation rehabilitation can be something, as if people don't want to think they have a disability, but I don't know many vets that have seen combat that don't have some form of PTSD.
Right.
PTSD is a form of a disability, and there are obvious reasons for that. And so, as an example, that is a condition by which the state will approve those things. And so, to answer your question, there is a cost for everything that we provide, which I'll continue in a minute. I just don't want to stomp here on your show and on Jonathan's time.
No, man. Hey, we got 2 hours, my friend. We got 2 hours. We're fine.
I'm just gonna keep going, man. I'm gonna keep rolling. You know, I'm gonna Will Ferrell it like old school, and then I'll just what happened? I blacked out, guys. I don't know what you said.
Hey, as long as you start doing the twirling, we'll be fine. Okay.
That's good. So with that all being said, we explore all of the funding sources. So essentially, to our students, there is no cost. If you come into our center, there is no cost. We have actually 4 divisions in our organization. Jonathan's the CEO of one of those in the Promising People Medical. We have other divisions as well, but we have one division as well that is our missions division, where we have a charitable organization for people that don't qualify for any of the available sources that are out there. And we have donors that will help to do those things.
That's fantastic.
So, Caesar, in addition to the different learning curricula, because this is a show that expands not just to the veteran, but obviously their community, their neighbors, their families. We also teach English as a secondary language inside the headset. So this is what we teach on, okay? This is, an Oculus 3. We use these all the time. And so we teach English as a secondary language. We also, a lot of people, when you talked about funding, that's why I brought this up, are under the misconception that, and this doesn't qualify to most veterans that I know, but it possibly to their families, if they don't have a high school diploma or a GED, that they can't qualify for any type of federal dollars. And that's a misconception. There's a program called the Ability to Benefit, where you can do an AccuPlacer test. And if you can read, write, and do mathematics above a 5th grade reading level, you can actually qualify for 6 years of Pell funding that will take you up through a bachelor's degree.
Oh, wow.
And so some people aren't even aware of those things. So essentially, we explore all of the options that are out there, including we also offer American high school. And the reason we do high school instead of a GED inside of the headset, Caesar, is because of one thing and one thing only: $1,680 a month. That's the differential of someone that has a high school diploma versus someone with a GED. It's not the world according to Jonathan Myers and Chad Walker. That's the world we live in. That if you have a high school diploma, you make $1,680 a month more.
Wow.
And so we have a program that has over 30,000 certifications that have been issued with an engagement of less than 6 months, and a success rate of 97.5%. So we do a lot of things. And so before we kind of dip into what we do and what makes it different, there's a lot of things we do besides continuing educational programs and things where people can obviously expand their I would say beyond just their typical MOS or what they have been doing or dedicated towards when they've gotten out of service.
So Chad, let me ask Jonathan a question. I know that you said that he's a CEO for one of the 4 branches that you guys have, and as far as so on the medical side, so how does the medical side? Are you talking about medical because of, as you mentioned, disabilities, and or medical as in medical field training?
Oh, that's a great question, Cesar. So, I mean, one of the things about the medical side, And then just to be very clear, we're all in lockstep with each other. So
Right.
we're one very tight unit. And so while Chad may be over here and one thing, Jonathan's running over here doing another thing, we still know what's going on to collectively, because a lot of the times folks that we work with, a lot of it comes together. And so there's a medical element, there's a legal element, there could be, a vocational element. So from our standpoint on the medical side, we are not as mature as the rest of the team, just to be just straightforward with that. But our focus really is using the headsets in a way that can do a number of things. One is it's able to connect people to providers, physicians, and such, using sort of telehealth modalities, if you will, but in a much more convincing, safe, and secure environment.
Right.
It's not sitting on a laptop in a coffee shop. This is a much more immersed experience. So that's one. Another thing, too, is we do have training elements that are being developed where we're actually looking to train folks who have an interest in the medical field, post-military, or maybe they want to cross-train into something else. And so there's a lot of opportunity on that. So there's the service delivery component of medicine, to the extent that we're able to, and I'll get into this later if we have time, but we know that, okay, there are a lot of one of the I mean, just to back this up just a little bit, my background is I've the last 16, 17 years been working on the healthcare regulatory space, both state and federal, worked all over the country and in different countries as well. And today I primarily work with the federal government on what are the regulations, how do you get things paid, how do we cover folks, and what does that look like? Right. And that is behavioral health, incarcerated space, other places in which that we've done that over the years. One of the prevailing themes that we continue to see, and it's not getting better, is the ability to provide, to find the provider or the doctor who really you need to see. Gotcha. And that is exacerbated in the more rural parts of the states that we have. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be that far. I mean, it's a matter of time, access, and availability, right? And even if you're in a more populated area, we find that can be really a challenge, especially if you have a few providers with a unique specialty within a specific area. So one of our missions here is to be able to enable the connectivity and make it more opportunistic for people to be able to find additional providers who will be able to work with them and help them through whatever they're struggling with, while also, drawing connection to other resources and available services that they have. So not so much training to be a medic per se, if you will, but more about training folks who maybe want to get into that workforce, but also enabling them with the other parts of the puzzle, if you will, that's available to them that folks don't have. And one of the areas that I think is also very important is we do a lot of transitionary help when it comes to folks who maybe are going in and out of the justice system. We also understand that the transitionary piece from folks who are leaving the military also can be fairly challenging, and it's not exactly clear cut. And that is further compounded depending on where you are, where your family is, with the needs of your family, especially if you're in that sort of situation where perhaps your family was receiving very comprehensive benefits through the military while you're there. But then what happens when you leave the military, and if you have a child, let's say, who maybe has special needs or needs extra support, where do you go and who do you call for that? So we understand that is a gap in the system, and from Promising People's perspective, that's an area that we're trying to help people navigate that system.
That's fantastic. I mean, again, you guys are leaps and bounds over a lot of different organizations, training people, and that's you guys are on the forefront of things that I would have never thought, being so innovative in that sense. And you're right, technology now has taken over a lot of our our daily lives, right, with AI and all this stuff. And this is a great training, and the fact that you're bringing in the medical side, because again, be it that somebody is unable to work due to an injury or mental health, things of that nature, where you guys can actually help, especially, and I'll say it again, my show is very, very veteran centric. Therefore, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the veteran than it is on anybody else. Again, I'm not taking away from you guys' training for everybody else, but it's this is what we're here for, because my show is actually highlighting a lot of these organizations that are actually helping veterans and empower themselves. Because if you don't have And I think Chad and I were talking about this earlier before we got on the show, is that having that, a lot of people have PTSD that don't know how to get back into the classroom, don't know how to reintegrate themselves into society. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that we have a very difficult time doing that transition, right? Because we're still there for whatever reason. I mean, let's just take some of our Vietnam veteran combat veterans that are there. They relive that thing every day. They didn't really know that it wasn't even a PTSD wasn't even a thing yet. They still called it shell shock, and they still didn't know what it was. And now that we have a clinical term for it, then this is good for them. But this is great. The fact that you guys are incorporating a lot of these different ways and thinking outside of the box to train and help people. Not only in the medical field or whatever, electricians or whatever it is, and then you're bringing in that aspect that you're able to actually help find that medical need or that mental health need they may have, or anything else that they may have. That's great. I commend you guys for that, and thank you guys so much for what you do, because it's because of people like you and your organization that does that. It has to be noticed, and a lot of people don't get to realize how there are organizations like yours that are doing this type of thing, and it's awesome to hear, and I'm just glad that I was able to meet you guys and do that. So with that, our show is over. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding with you guys. But no, I thank you guys so much for that, because again, it's important that we as people that suffer, because I had friends that came back with PTSD, and they weren't able to be in rooms full of a lot of people for a long time. They would hate going outside. They would recluse themselves. They would be like hermits. They would not want to do anything because they were so traumatized about what they went through. And everybody's different in the way that they handle PTSD and what they saw and what they went through. That each case is it's different. It's not everybody's the same, and people don't understand that. And I think Chad, you could probably attest to some of this stuff where some of the things that you're able to live with every day, but there's some things that are just always recurring that sometimes you have no way of stopping that machine. Like my brain goes all the time, and I'm 100% all the time, and it's just like the over I don't want to say overexcitement, but it's the just over cautiousness of being around things, and things make you nervous, or you see something that makes you really nervous. Some people can't even go underneath bridges because of things like that. And it's.
You mean it's not normal to walk into a restaurant, look at all the exits and how many people are in there, and any potential people that are. Wait a minute. When you say 27-3 and you sit down and your wife looks at you like, wait, that's normal. Yeah. Well, I still do it, guys, and I've been out since '99. So I think that really what separates us, and what I think the point that you're hitting on is really important. And I think that because of that disability that we all have as a victim of circumstance, what happens is that we're reluctant to go back in the classroom for not just the reasons you've articulated, but the one that no one wants to really talk about is no one wants to talk about how hard it is to learn when we get older. It's called hedragogy, how adults learn. and at the end of the day, not just that, but the duration of time.
Yeah.
So as an example, you mentioned our electrical helper program, and we have 23 different curricula, and we add about 3 to 4 new curricula once a quarter.
Dang.
And so we don't have too many books in the library. And so these are all national certifications that have all accreditation in all 50 states that we operate in. These are all nationally accredited, same as what you would get. So here's an example. You want to go to become an electrical helper. You can certainly go do that at a community college. And all these programs pay for this. You absolutely can do that. That's depending upon the school, 8 to 10 months. That's what that program takes. Okay.
At least, right? At least.
Well, that's it depends if they're a quarter, if they're semester, if it's a 2 or 3 but however they decide it, they all have their own process of how they crosswalk and determine what the credits are worth. Well, you can also take that same class at a trade school. A lot of hubbub right now about trade schools and utilizing dollars from Harvard and going towards trade schools, which we're huge advocates of, because obviously we teach a lot of them trades.
Right.
And in that process, it's going to take you probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 months. And then you have an option. You can do it online, and you can do that in 5 to 6 months. And so that doesn't sound like a lot, but you're supporting a family. You're working full time because you have to support your family.
Right.
And a lot of people are going, well, do I really have the time that I want to invest? And then once I invest, I have to try to find a job. And then I have to kind of start back at the bottom. And that's a big ask for a lot of people, especially when they're dealing with some of those mental issues.
Yeah.
So here's what's really interesting. So I mentioned it again, just to revisit. You can go to a community college. You can go to an online school. You can go to a trade school. And that process is 6 to say 10 months.
Jeez.
These are any idea what we teach that exact same program inside of VR, inside of the headset? How long does that on average? We have thousands of certifications now, so these are based upon actual numbers.
Right.
How long does that take inside the headset?
I would say probably less than 90 days. I mean, if I'm taking a gander at it, I would say less than 90 days.
Technically, your answer is correct. So the actual answer, truthfully, is 10 days. 10. 10.
Dang.
And that's based upon 50 hours, because the average time that a student will sit in the headset has been about 5.1 hours.
Wow.
And so, people, you and Jonathan both wear corrective lenses. We thought that, and you can wear corrective lenses inside of the headsets. We also shot it from first person because in the early versions of VR, and I'm a guy that hadn't played a video game since an Atari, folks. I've got 4 drones.
Yes, Atari, yes.
If it was Dodge 'em, in Asteroids, Pong,
Pong, yeah.
So with that being said, however, when you're looking at the way you're going about doing this and teaching, and when I say it's identical, folks, I'm a guy that believes in precision. NOCTI is the defining body that determines when they crosswalk. So whether you went to that community college, you go to that online school, or you went to that trade school, NOCTI is the one that gives the certification. We just administer it in VR. We're also giving you all your OSHA, all your safety. And you're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can go out there and I can get completely educated, completely credentialed, all of my safety, and be ready to go out to work in less than 30 days? That's the big difference.
So you're telling me that you're actually also putting in the OSHA certification on this thing?
Everything is in there. In fact, you don't even get into the intricacies of, and I'm being facetious, as a hammer in our electrical helper program, which is 64 steps until lesson 25. And the way that we do this, and to go back to speaking about hedragogy, I'm over the age of 50. I may look young, but thank God for genetics. Thanks, Dad. At the end of the day, is that the way in which we learn, people have a lot of anxiety, especially if you're already dealing with PTSD or you have other underlying conditions about, I have this huge cumulative test that if I don't study and get it all right, I'm going to fail it. So we've broken it down, as my dad would say, of eating the elephant, you can't do it in one bite. So we do it in chunks. And so you have to pass each section in order to go to the next section with 100%. Because as an example, using the electrical helper program, if I know one of the lessons, for example, is 12 steps and you get 11 out of 12, that's 92%. Every classroom in America, that's an A. But Caesar, if I burn 8% of your and your wife's home down, you're not going to be my friend anymore. You're not going to like that very much. And so we make sure that everyone has that. And that goes back to my earlier point here that I really wanted to emphasize is this. Not just that we're reducing the amount of time, but when you look at, so you're looking again, 6 to 10 months going a traditional learning pathway versus 10 days. What's the retention rate at 1 year? These are not our studies. These are published peer-reviewed studies from third parties, Miami Children, University of Maryland, PricewaterhouseCoopers. I can send them all to you for your audience to have, no problem. If we say it, we can produce it. What's the retention rate in a traditional, what's called a didactic learning environment? Jonathan and I, we work for the federal government. We were good students. If Caesar, you're our buddy that we grew up on the same street, we're probably getting in trouble for talking to you too much because taking tests were easy for guys like us.
Right.
It was keeping our mouths shut because we were bored. So everybody has that issue, and we recognize that. So, but here's what's interesting. Those of us that think, hey, you're a pretty smart guy, right? Well, what do you think you retain at 1 year on a subject that you think you're an expert on? In fact, this podcast, we set a reminder for 365 days. What percentage do you think you and I and Jonathan will retain that we spoke about?
I will probably forget by tomorrow morning as to I mean, if we're being real, let's just say, no, I would think, I mean, in all honesty, like anything else and anything else I've ever been trained on, if you don't do it daily, it's a perishable skill, right?
That's right.
So you have to keep doing the job fully all the time. So I would say that the retention is pretty low. I would say probably less than 20%, if
It
that.
is. It's according to the publications, it's 9% at 1 year in
Wow.
a traditional didactic learning environment. When you're inside of virtual reality, you're in what's called a kinetic environment. You are not sitting stagnant and your hands are stagnant. Your hands are moving, your eyes are moving, your head is moving. It's a kinetic learning environment.
That's
When
awesome.
you're constantly having to do things, as a result, what do you think your retention rate is in virtual reality? So again, we're reducing that 6 to 10
Right.
months to 10 days. We're going from 9% retention at 1 year to what do you think at 1 year with VR?
I would say it probably increases probably like 75% or more.
81% according to the publications. So
Wow.
what does that mean? You're because you're removing all the outside stimuli. Okay, it's great for PTSD. It's great for people with autism. It's great for those people because the kinesiology and the eye movement that it requires for tracking, etc., and the manner by which it's enforcing those capabilities, and also the process of how we do all of our teaching. To use some military analogy, we do it in a see one, do one, teach one mentality. Whenever
Wow.
you get into a lesson, it's shot completely immersive in the first person. You're sitting there, you're an observer, you can look all the way around, everything is immersed. In the second lesson, in every single thing that you do, you have multiple modules, you get to do one, and it's guided. It explains to you auditorily. If you don't have the gift of hearing or you're hard of hearing or you're now deaf, it reads it to you and there's closed caption as well as it shows you. So on the screen, if I'm supposed to go to the opposite direction, it puts an arrow this way. If I'm supposed to go up, and now it puts me up.
Right.
It gives me those directions. That's guided. So that's the C one. Now we did the do one,
That
and
is
it's guided.
crazy.
Now it's the teach one, where there isn't any auditory stimulation that's telling you what to do. There's nothing visual. I just got to remember there was 12 steps in how to put this receptacle box in, and what are they? And I have to get all 12 correct. But because how we do all of our teaching and our lessons across everything we do is called asynchronous learning, means it's at your own pace.
Right.
If you're a whiz kid and can zip through it in 4 days, we've had people do it that quick. If it takes you a little bit longer and you only want to tolerate an hour or two a night and it takes you 25 days to do something someone else does shorter, that's fine too, because you can go back and you can take those tests over and over again and reinforce those lessons. And so
Wow.
when you're doing that in virtual reality, there's no secret. And you mentioned artificial intelligence and extended reality and all these cool things that are out there. We've been able to tap into it. So
Yeah.
I'll even mention something in a minute about the movie Ready Player One when you're ready. Make this really
Well, first of all, let's just clarify that the 12 steps you're talking about, it's not the 12 steps of hi, my name is Caesar and I'm an alcoholic, right? So let's just clear that up either way, because you did mention 12 steps. So with that said, Jonathan, with all the different studies that are being done right now, that with all the retention, as far as this, as far as the, I know Chad talked about it a little bit, but what are the, I guess, the benefits, more of the benefits of someone that actually has the PTSD and it goes through a training like this? Have you guys had any feedback as to how it actually, somebody has had a PTSD and has actually gone through a training program through you guys? Has that helped them in their steps?
Oh, absolutely. I think actually, Chad, you probably have the most recent case study if you wanted to elaborate on that. Or
Well, not only do we have thousands of those situations that we've
yeah.
done everything in the very beginning, Caesar, going back 6 years ago when we set the company up, that we did cohorts inside of prisons. We went into and did a federal prison in Cibola, New Mexico. We've done prisons in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We currently have a team that's in 3 prisons in Florida currently, that we've gone in to be able to help those individuals. We've dealt with people that had PTSD that were prior vets that have been incarcerated. And so now they're dealing with incarcerated syndrome, where they're having post-traumatic stress from being incarcerated on top of that. what's able to be done by removing all of the outside components, as well as removing shame for people that don't want to talk about that they don't read or write well, or that they have difficulty learning conceptually, and that they need something that's extra, they need a little extra time. Those folks gravitate very well, and they also understand because it helps them to learn in a capacity where they typically in a traditional learning environment have been taught this isn't what to do. Don't get up and move around in your chair. Don't do all these things. Why are you flailing your arms?
Right.
That's encouraged. These are the things that are being done. And so it's not only helped people with their PTSD, but it really helps them because we're not a therapy company. We're not here that it's administrating therapy for post-traumatic stress. What we're talking about is being able to provide a different mechanism for people that have PTSD and other ailments that are similar to that, of how they are able to be administered in virtual reality, retained at a high rate, and taught in a manner where it is done far more expeditiously than a traditional learning environment that frankly has a 9 times higher retention rate. So the confidence that it produces and the outcome is, I think, a culmination of all of those things, Caesar, that helps someone.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna if I can just elaborate on that a little bit, Caesar, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
No, I think that says what that is. I mean, from Chad's perspective, that's spot on. The other thing that I think is also to be considered is we're also finding that the headset is also very successful in terms of being careful in how it stimulates the brain for folks that maybe don't have post-traumatic stress disorder, but they may have some other sort of maybe there's autism, they're on the autism spectrum and things like that. And so what we found, while Chad did sort of give the cutoff when it came to the 15-year-olds, when it comes to training and education, different programs, we have used the headset to date with children who maybe, have light sensitivity or other types of things, and they're very sensitive to different cues, but they're able to sit and relax in the headset because they're very much focused, and sort of everything else, as Chad mentioned, is really out of the picture. So they're able to stay hyper-focused on what they're doing, which was interesting because you actually might think that if you have a child or someone who has, severe sensory reactions to light, like your flickering light you had just now, Cesar, or something like that, they may not be able to sit there and work with a headset, but it's actually quite the opposite experience. And I think also one of the things that we've seen coming through the veteran affairs organizations and such also is the way to use virtual reality in a therapeutic sense, while we don't focus on the therapeutics, we do know that there are ongoing studies right now where there are folks who are using sensory stimulation training in the headsets in order to go through a desensitization process from the post-traumatic stress disorder that the folks have experienced. Now, this isn't early days yet, but there is a lot of promising data that's coming from that. And one of the things that, Chad and I and the rest of the team focused on is we do have the training element, and we do want to provide people resources and options and do it in the most effective way. Because the one thing that Chad didn't quite mention, I'm sure he's going to get there, is not only can that person complete the course within 10 days, but they could have a job within 30, right? Because we have the employers on the back end who subscribe to our training and will hire you on the spot because they know that you've completed 100% of the coursework. We're already getting feedback from employers saying these guys are great, they know what they're doing. And so that's also another element to it that I think we should mention today.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that in there, Chad.
That was actually going to be one of my next questions. Is like once they complete this type of training, is there additional help to actually have employers go through that so they can actually hire your graduates or your certificate people that actually to be working right away? Because that's one of the biggest thing as well, that sometimes when you do get the training, as a new graduate now, you're lucky if you're gonna get right away within the into the system. There's all those people that actually do get the interns. If you get an internship into one of these big companies like a defense contractor company, that if you did an internship the year before, they're more than likely going to hire you right after you graduate. So there's always that fear. So is there job placement right after they're done with the trainings?
So we're not a placement company, but we do have, as Jonathan mentioned, there are hundreds of employers that we have connected with over the years, and specifically in the fields of our training, because they have a need for those. As well as we ask specifically, will you work with people that were previously justice impacted? Will you work with people that obviously may have disabilities? Do you work with all veterans organizations, et cetera, to try to mirror those folks up to the right places? But in addition to that, Caesar, that there are some other things that are offered from, and we help them. This is not a Promising People program. These are programs that we're aware of, so we help them. So for an example, while they are getting their training, if they were approved by vocation rehabilitation, for example, there is a program where they will actually pay the student during their training, and they supplement them as an income while they're doing their training as an hourly rate. So they'll do that for that period. In addition to that, and when the student is employed, and because we have several companies, not only to mention, but we also work with organizations that is what they do, that they work with the state, and they have all of these different employers they work with as well to help place people. So we work with a multitude of avenues to try to get people placed in their roles. But essentially, there are avenues where during that first 30-day period, they'll actually pay the employer for that period for full-time employment. This goes directly to the employee. And there are bonds that the employer can receive up to $25,000. So if Caesar's taken a chance on Jonathan because of whatever circumstance, or he's new, he's coming into a different occupation after being an 88 Mike, and now he's going to go do something else. At the end of the day, what about experience? Well, I've been doing the kinesiology, et cetera. Well, now I've got something that says, hey, I'm essentially not costing you anything for, the first month or so that I'm here. And I've got a bond that didn't cost you anything. So we try to provide programs and also connection points that help them. And employers that we know that are in need of employees. For example, on the 1st of June, we're launching our CDL truck driving program, and there's a tremendous need.
You're kidding.
No,
that is awesome. And is that okay? So that's another question here, and I'm sorry to cut you off. Is this going to be a all across the nation, or is it just going to be in Florida where you guys are based?
No, we're continuing to grow outside of the United, all throughout the country now. Outside of Florida, we're based in Orlando, as you mentioned, in the Central Florida area, but we can ship headsets anywhere in the country. And so, dependent upon obviously where someone lives, we would walk them through the process of helping them to get appropriate funding, et cetera. But being able to continue to grow that. But to be clear, some of these programs, as an example, CDL, you can't take an entire course inside of virtual reality. You actually have to show up to a testing facility to do your pre-trip inspection and to actually take the driving portion of your test. But because we have the experts that have come to us in CDL that help to develop these programs, including the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Group that came from Tallahassee, what they taught and they continue to emphasize are the key failure points. That's what you learn in the military. It's not learning all the stuff you're supposed to do. It's learning all the stuff that's going to happen when you get out there. And so at the end of the day, when you learn these failure points that are there, those are what are emphasized in the training. And because it's asynchronous in the fact that you can practice as frequently as you want, as often as you want, for as long as you want, that you're not only able to go in there and do these things and be able to get in the truck and drive and do that virtually, so that when you actually get in the cab of the truck, it's actually, it's real and it's right there. But what's neat is in virtual reality, when you get out of the truck, you and I, Jonathan, can be riding this 18-wheeler and like say, hey, watch this. And I can grab it, take it, hold it in my hands and move it around and say, here it is, like it's a Matchbox car. So awesome. There's a lot of interesting things that VR gives us the ability to be able to grow. We're actually launching as well as a phlebotomy program. And, I was the medic on our team. And so I have a clinical background, and you're thinking, well, how do you teach somebody how to put a catheter in to make sure they're getting a pop back and that they're actually drawing blood and doing all these things? All of these things can be done inside of virtual reality, and there are things like extended reality and augmented reality items that you can use in conjunction with that to emphasize key points. So we continue to grow, and we have partners that come to us. Caesar, we'd love to say we're all geniuses and we've developed all these things ourselves, and we've done some of it, a lot of it, but we now have third-party companies that have come to us and say, listen, we want to put our product in your headset because we recognize this is the way to deliver this. And so as veterans are looking at transitioning out and they look at things like Skill Bridge within 180 days of getting exited
Right.
out, or they've had the Montgomery GI Bill and they're looking at wanting to use it, there's avenues to be able to do that. There's also for people that didn't contribute to those things that are saying, hey, I'm a veteran, but maybe I didn't use that, or I exhausted it, or is there other programs that are out there? There are. Uncle Sam is not the only avenue for which you can access educational dollars. And there are a lot of things that are being done to be able to help veterans in particular and their family members to be able to lift them up.
Right. So now, you mentioned that you will be able to ship the VR glasses to. Once they're done with the training, do they get to keep those, or do they get sent them back?
It's a good question. They own them. So because you're actually, we put these in a kiosk mode. When I say these, and you put it back on camera, so we put it in a kiosk mode, and so that's for the delivery of the content. But what's also interesting, because some of your listeners, they may live in an area where they don't have access to Wi-Fi all the time, or it's not very active. We teach the courses, a couple of key points. We teach the courses in 17 languages. We also don't require Wi-Fi for connectivity. And so what's interesting, and I want to emphasize this point because I mentioned we teach English as a secondary language, is that all the certifications are taught, I should say, administered in English. Okay, so you have to be able to read and write English to be able to actually do the final exams. Because again, we don't administer those. Those are the national accreditation, whether it's NCCR or whether it's NOCTI or ServSafe for some of the food and culinary arts work that we do. They administer those. But if you don't have access to Wi-Fi, we use telemetrics. And so whenever you get onto Wi-Fi next at work or your neighbor's house or Starbucks, it doesn't lose all the work that you've created. And because we teach the classes and we have access to these things, like we're promising people medical, et cetera, in different languages, our reach is far greater in doing that. And it helps people be more comfortable. And it's reality, Caesar. I mean, I had a call from a vet the other day from Voc Rehab, but the gentleman, he didn't speak English very well. And he's a truck driver, but he's been driving a truck 31 years, and he's worried that under the current administration, their stop order that, now they just pull you over and they hold up a piece of paper. There's no direction as a law enforcement officer. It says, hey, Caesar, if you can't read these instructions and tell me exactly what this is saying and what you are to do now, I can pull you and place you on a stop order until you can prove to me that you can read and write English. And so this is someone that's driven for 31 years with an impeccable record, no accidents, no DUIs or deaths or anything crazy like that. And so there's a lot of things that people that are out there that they're not necessarily looking on the surface level of where it can help to lift them up, but they own the headset when they're done, to answer your question. So, I tell people afterward, when they finish their course, if they don't want to take another course, we can take it out of kiosk mode. And if they decide they want to set up a Meta account and go watch, Aerosmith and a Meta universe, have at it.
They'll be watching the Battle Rhythm podcast. That's what they're going to be watching.
Watch Caesar.
So, Jonathan, with what he just said, that this is, I mean, again, this is revolutionary stuff that that I wish we had when we were growing up, because this is, I hated being in the classroom so much, especially in a military classroom where PowerPoint is death.
It still is, by the way.
I don't know.
It is, and it's like, oh my god, this is another meeting that could have been an email, that type of thing. As far as the medical, because I know medical right now is in great need of a lot of different things, right? Nurses, phlebotomists, X-ray technicians, whatever. Medical is a field that we're in demand. And what courses are you have right now? Because I know I probably have a ton of people listening right now that are going to be saying, I'm interested in this. And by the way, the website is actually on the bottom. It's promisingpeople.com. So if you want to talk to any one of these gentlemen, please go in there, look at the team, and message them, and call them, harass them. They want to hear from you because this is how they grow their business. A and B is, business is good, especially because, again, training. This is what gets people hired. So back to my original question. What programs do you have as far as medical? Because, again, nurses and phlebotomists and all these people that are actually in high demand right now.
So, we are continuously evolving, as Chad mentioned earlier. And one of the things about the medical field is it's a little trickier because a lot of the folks that we work with usually have to come with, a bachelor's or some other degree, typically to qualify for it. And then
Right.
also there's state level requirements for any
Right.
any specialty, right? So we are in the process of continuing to improve and update our material to look at medical professions that are not so much, you're definitely not your physician level training at this point, or even an RN, but a lot of the supporting medical apparatus that are often the forgotten folks, but do a very, very important job. So I think what I'm thinking about is like community health workers, or so CHWs,
Right.
as we call them in the industry. These are folks that are helping folks navigate the community, connect with other supports, et cetera, that are absolutely critical. They may not be able to read your chart, but they might know, be able to find you housing and food for the evening. I don't know which is actually more important than that in that situation, as an example.
Right.
So one of the things we're doing is we're working when we're putting together stuff with different partners in different states in order to really focus on supporting and enabling the workforce component. To Chad's point, when he was talking about the example before of the CDL, there are certain components that can't all be done through the headset, but there
Right.
are pieces that we can also do. The other thing on the medical side that I wanted to highlight for the group is, while there's the training element that we're mostly focused on today, the headset is an amazing place, and Chad really wants to get to this reference to this movie, and he's going to do it. I just know he will.
He's chomping
but
at the bit.
I don't want to. I'm not going to take his thunder. I'm not even going to mention the movie. I already mentioned it. Whatever. But what it also does from a medical perspective is it gives us the person's attention, and it also enables us to assess people in a way that you wouldn't normally be able to be assessed. And one of the things about having the headset that I'm most excited is, in many ways, the headset is like a delivery system, right? And there's a bunch of bells and whistles and different things that you can do to decorate that delivery system.
Right.
And the technology is happening so quickly and so rapidly that we're actually at the point where we're having to sort of say, no, we got something that's related to this. I mean, it's pretty fast. So, for example, in our headset, now we're able to take different markers from the interaction of the person while they're doing something else. So, for example, if you have somebody who's going through the CDL training, we have systems in place that pick up different biomarkers that actually build a patient profile of the person and basically leads to diagnostic cues or indicators to potential conditions they may have or may be developing. So, for example, we work with voice, and so they have a way to. I mean, we have to get consent. I mean, we don't just do this without asking people, of course, but we have a way to determine the likelihood of cognitive or behavioral impairment just based on vocal cues alone. And so we work with a vendor that does that. We have another vendor that we're looking to work with that is actually specific with PTSD around looking at your eye and different indicators in the eye that are basically, markers or biomarkers, if you will, for potential conditions or things that are developing. So there is a training element where you've got the courses like the CHWs, you've got peer supports, et cetera, that are really fundamentally crucial for folks getting in, navigating the healthcare system, better understanding where opportunities are, and then also those people getting paid to do it while we're building this apparatus behind that is also being able to sort of create a clinical model for somebody who's going through the headset with the idea of being able to build effectively a patient profile of somebody and says, Jonathan went through CDL, but he has a behavioral impairment and he's looking like he might be developing XYZ, and he's definitely got these markers over here. It might be a good idea to highlight that and flag that for someone with their doctor, and then maybe get the right care that they need without it being you have to drive 50 miles to see a doctor and then go through a battery of tests, and then that person has to refer to this person, that person. So what we're trying to do is take a lot of literally the legwork out of people's demise when it means improving their health as well as improving their access to work and putting it in a place that they're most comfortable with, also the most, beneficial and impactful results,
Right.
as Chad mentioned before. So
That
doesn't exactly answer the question, Caesar, but that's some of the things that we're doing.
No, that's great, and it's awesome. So before we get to Chad, I wanted you said something about something about I, and I just thought about a quote from 50 First Dates. Is like, believe it or not, it's my good eye. So he starts saying it. So with that, we're gonna give way to the comedy part of our show, and this is our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week. Hold on. Our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week is brought to you by Scott's Construction LLC. Chad, you're on. The mic is yours. Go ahead. This is what you've been waiting for about 10 minutes.
I don't know how I can follow the WTF, but I'll give it a go. So essentially, just to kind of parlay your question as well as what Jonathan was saying, and then I'll go into that as well. Is that what Jonathan, the people at Promising People Medical are able to do is all of these tools that they have and that they continue to develop help veterans, help their families to also gain access to funding that are at these different federal and state agencies if they don't already have a Montgomery GI Bill or they're exiting out through ScaleBridge, et cetera. So those are the things that are out there. But to answer your question specifically, we have things that are in medical coding. We have veterinary medicine. We have drone piloting. We have financial services. We have trade skills. If you want to learn HVAC 1, plumbing, HVAC 2, electrical helper, et cetera. As I mentioned, CDL, phlebotomy are coming out June the 1st. So we continue to grow. So we have something, whether you're male, whether you're female, whatever your age, whatever if you want to do something that's in the culinary arts, child and behavioral care, we have those programs as well.
Wow, that is awesome, my friend. So what was the quote you were thinking about?
So the question is, and this is, it's got a 50-50 chance of me falling on my face. Are you familiar with the Steven Spielberg movie that was before that was a book? Ready Player One, where the world is such a horrible place in the year 2045 that everyone meets in virtual reality because other than eating, sleeping, and bathroom breaks, this is where everyone conducts all of their business.
Right.
And so that's the concept of the movie, is this crazy concept that you can create an avatar and that everything is there. Well, in the movie, it's done by a guy named James Halliday, when in reality, our director of virtual experience is a guy by the name of Jim McManus, and he created it. And we called it Spaces because in the movie it's called the Oasis. Now, the reason I say that as it pertains to what Jonathan and what we do on the Promising People side, and that's why Jonathan said we're lockstep and he's right, is that imagine now, Caesar, that if we go into your studio and I shoot 3D VR pictures, take about 10 minutes, and now we send out 75 of your listeners headsets. And we literally put those headsets on. In fact, let's say that 17 languages. When we put on those headsets, we're all going to be inside of your studio. If I walk up and shake your hand, it's a haptic response. Your hand's going to vibrate. It's literally going to be as if we are there. So imagine what you're able to do and the reach that you're able to have, but not only training, but education and ongoing pieces. So there are companies that come to Jonathan as an example that are medical companies and that are seeking their content to be put in the headset for training, pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies. They do a lot of training and education where typically you have to fly somewhere. You're now removing the barriers of space and time. And so in the movie Ready Player One, they've created this virtual place called the Oasis where everyone can go do anything that they want, when in reality, we do that now. We've created virtual spaces, for example, with the Montessori team, not about how they teach kids, but literally the people that teach the Montessori teachers, because they're like, how do we have a program that you can show how you can interact and observe, but it's in Florida and our biggest need is in Guangdong, China, and they speak Mandarin and Cantonese. Well, because we can convert it and literally you're in the same space and you can't fool it. You can put it on a mannequin and all those types of things. So we have some pretty interesting things. So literally, if you wanted to learn how to shoot a handgun and do CQB, and you could teach it in a headset.
Wow, that's fantastic. That is a WTF moment, by the way, because how do you teach that? So there we go. So it fit perfectly. But gentlemen, I didn't realize just how intense this actually could be. And not saying intense in a way that it's like, oh my gosh, it's stressful, but it's the fact that it just you offer so much to the viewer, sorry, to the student, that they're able to learn probably, you know, and like you said, retain a lot more than they would be in a normal classroom setting, you know, because hey, I remember when I was going to college, when it was a classroom setting, hey, I knew I had a class on Tuesday and I didn't have to go back till Thursday. I knew what I was going to be doing on Tuesday night or even Thursday night. You know what I mean? So it's hey, it's Tuesday, it's, you know, Taco Tuesday, and it's Thirsty Thursdays, and I already knew where I was going to be at, you know, 9 o'clock that night. So it's completely different when you actually have it and you're able to actually plan your days with that, because like you said, 5.1 hours at any time, you'll be able to get through the whole thing. Obviously, if you do more hours, it'll benefit you, but it, you know, I don't think it costs anything.
And it also is, it's really another thing too is, you know, we're what, 15 years in front of that movie, Chad? Is that what we are ahead of schedule here? But the other thing too is today in 2025, right?
Uh-huh.
All of us, many of us, had some degree of video games when we were growing up. Like
Yep.
you either had Atari or you had the first Nintendo, or you know, most of us had some degree of exposure with video games, right?
Yep.
And some of us probably more exposure than what was appropriate. And anyway, but one of the things that, and you see that now also with the use of technology and how we interface with technology. I mean, you know, now everything is technology. No iPhone, you can't check your bank, right? I mean, you know, things like that, and so the idea of being able to move the way people go through society and enable, you know, the betterment for oneself or support for their family or training in a new vocational trade or finding different ways to do things should definitely be expedited, because we have the way to do that, and through this medium, it's a good way to do that.
Right.
And also it really is communicated in a way for a lot of us understand now. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like in 50 years. I'm a little afraid, actually, but you know, maybe by then we have implants and such, and it's doing a lot more. But the nice thing, I think, Caesar, for the folks that interact with it, they have some degree of exposure, so it's not completely foreign. It's not like, you know, you're giving the latest iPhone to your great grandfather, right? That's not what we're dealing with. And so the ability to take this and to use this type of apparatus to further oneself and to take care of themselves and their family is really, I think it's really at the right time for this type of opportunity. And, you know, with any technology, we can only keep up with what we keep up with. And there's a lot of things that are happening in the next 5, 10, 15 years is going to be quite immense. And it's really nice to be able to help in one way where we're really providing opportunity to folks and really giving them a promising opportunity to move it forward. So, you know, we can still play Donkey Kong in the headset, right, Chad? I don't know if you put that in there, but you know, whatever, you know, Donkey Kong 2020, 2030 is what we're going to be working on next. So I think I just wanted to make that point, Cedric, because that's one of the things that we see in the efficacy rates and folks who being able to sit in the headset for 5 hours, you know, a lot of kids did that when they were younger anyway, so it's not a problem, you know? Yeah,
so we've come to the part of the show where we're going to take a quick little break, and I want to invite you guys to actually watch this video. This video is actually highlighting a 96-year-old veteran that's part of my post and here in the VFW, post 2772 here in Sherman, Texas. And this gentleman was a 3-war veteran, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. In Korea, he was a Marine, and you, Chad, know that as a Marine, being a 3-war veteran is ridiculously. I mean, the probability of somebody coming out in 3 different wars as a Marine is pretty low, right? So, Gunny Han, he is a 96-year-old veteran, like I mentioned, and he was part of the Frozen Chosen in Korea. And because he survived, he's part of the chosen few. Therefore, he is, like I said, he's 96 years old, still kicking, still running, doing all kinds of stuff. And I want to invite you guys to actually watch this video that I'm about to play, because it's a great little story that a friend of mine, Bailey Vaughn from the local K10 news here, ABC, NBC affiliates put together, and I play this pretty much every week. And the reason why is because I love the military history part of it, and when I found out that he was part of this, I mean, they'll explain it in the video, but to be under such conditions and to be outnumbered almost a lot to a lot. I mean, it was 100,000 Chinese soldiers to 8,000 American troops. That's huge, and it'll go into the story, and it's awesome. But you are listening to the Battle Rhythm podcast here on Voice of the People USA TV radio and network, and also on BUC Digital Patriot Radio out of Florida, and very, very, very soon out of somewhere else that I don't know yet. But we are being viewed and listened to by 190 countries right now. And let me tell you, people, we are hearing you. So if you do have questions for Chad and or Jonathan, please use our social media platforms that you can actually post questions. We can actually have them answer those questions for you. So anytime you have, please question that. But here, first and foremost, let's play the Tootsie Roll Man.
As he approaches his 96th birthday, Jim Hahn still remembers intimate details about his time serving as a Marine in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, and he also remembers how it all started.
Mother wasn't going to sign. I told her, I said, if you don't sign this, I'll lie about my age. And she signed.
He was inspired to enlist when walking down the street at 16 years old. He tells K10 he saw some people messing with a Marine and his girlfriend.
They was doing anything they could try to make him mad. He told his girlfriend there to go down and wait for him at the red light at the end of the street there. He turned around and whipped all four of those guys.
A year later, he was off to San Diego for basic training. Han joined the occupation force in both China and Japan during World War II, which marks the only time in the history of Japan that it has been occupied by a foreign power. A bitter time these days, though, Gunnery Sergeant Han holds tight to the sweeter moments.
It's going into Japan, there, into town. I seen all these little kids running around there, and they looked like they was hungry and everything else. So I started in getting candy from our PX and taking it in there and giving it to the little kids. It got to where whenever I'd come inside the city limits, man, here come all these kids.
What he didn't realize at the time, candy would one day become his lifeline. In November of 1950, just a few months after the Korean War began, 8,000 fighters, mostly Marines, were trapped in the Chonjin Reservoir, surrounded by 120,000 Chinese soldiers. And you guessed it, Sergeant Han was one of those Marines.
If somebody told me this, I'd have thought of him as being a liar, because I did not think that it would get 90 degrees below zero. I seen guys just walking along, and all of a sudden I could stop walking, and they just did. They'd freeze to death while they was walking.
Freezing, barely hanging on to life. The Marines called for ammunition using their code word, Tootsie Roll.
I never will forget that. They got on the radio there and talking to them, said, send us some Tootsie Rolls. And they was talking about ammunition, a certain type of ammunition.
Well, the soldier on the other end of that radio took the message literally, and they dropped into the reservoir Tootsie Rolls.
Here's this 3 planes there coming out with these parachutes coming down there with Tootsie Rolls. It's supposed to be ammunition, but it's Tootsie Rolls. But if it hadn't been for them, a lot of us, including me, would probably starve to death.
Those little chocolate candies were the fuel that sustained the troops. All other provisions were frozen, so they survived on the chocolate.
It seemed impossible that they was there for any other reason than to save my life. I thank God many times for the fact that I lived through all of it. Didn't lose any arms or legs or anything that way. I sat in this foxhole, and people all around me freezing. And some reason or other I didn't.
He says all he thought about was his next breath and how he would use it.
I don't know, I still think about it sometimes. I know that God saved me from it. Try to thank God 3 or 4 or 5 times a day about that.
Decades later, Sergeant Hahn literally holds on to that memory with a bucket of Tootsie Rolls made specifically for him with American flags after the company heard his story. Those Marines that made it out are now revered as the heroes of the Frozen Chosen. But this one calls Texoma home, and he chooses to spend his time right here in the Sherman VFW.
I feel like they're brothers. This, to me, is part of the military.
As this veteran reflects on a life of service most would never know, Hahn would do every second of it again. The few, the proud, the Marines.
It was such an honor to be able to sit down with Jim, and I just want to say right here on the record, thank you for your service. Not only a World War II veteran, a 3-war veteran. He decided to just keep going back. I know.
And you know, I had heard that, I knew that there was something involving Tootsie Rolls, but that was the first time I actually heard that full story, and that is so incredible.
And he's just walking around Texoma.
My name's Richie Onuri with the Multi-Platinum Group This Sweet. We all owe a debt to our veterans. It's time to give back. With the Veterans First Initiative, you can make that difference right here and right now. I want you right now to open up your wallets and go to vetsinneed.org, vetsinneed.org, and make that difference our vets deserve. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm Podcast. I am Caesar. I'm just here to remind you that June 7th, it is the telethon brought to you by People for a New America, Veterans First Initiative, also the Disability Channel out of Canada, because there's also Canada training videos, people out there, and they're awesome. So again, June 7th from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there will be many things, many great acts as far as music, entertainment, interviews from yours truly that are going to be happening, including these two gentlemen that are actually going to be on those interviews. Trust me when I tell you that this is going to be a great thing for them to do. One of the reasons why I partnered up with People for a New America and also Veterans First Initiative is because of the message that they're bringing. So they are capturing funds and getting funds from different people in a lot of different organizations to actually help veterans in training. This is why the Promising People are here with us, because they offer the type of training for the veterans. Also, because they actually get these little things called gift cards for veterans that are homeless in the area. So what they do is they give them these gift cards, and they're able to go ahead, shop for groceries, clothes, or anything that they may need. And obviously, there's little caveats to that, but they'll get into to that a little bit later. But yes, June 7th from 12 p.m. Eastern time to 8 p.m. That night. It'll be happening in Phoenix, Toronto, Chicago, and LA, not in that particular order. So be sure to tune into the Voice of the People U.S.A. Radio TV network, also on BUC Digital and Patriot Radio. We will be streaming the entirety of the show for 8 hours during that time. So please tune in, because it's a great cause, and if you're able to donate, please do so. It is a great cause to veterans, and like I said, these gentlemen here with me today from Promising People, Chad Walker and Jonathan, they are here because they are partnering up with that particular organization to be able to give back to veterans. Again, I mentioned earlier, service outside of the military, and this is be it in a government or whatever, you're still serving, and this is the way that we give back. So thank you guys so much for giving back in many ways, and your way of doing it is to actually provide that type of training. So it's awesome. So thank you. With that said,
we're happy to be here, Caesar. We really are, and it's a really important mission. And whatever we can do to help and spread the word, we will.
Well, you guys are friends of the show, so whenever you want to come back, please don't tell me. No, I'm just kidding. Please tell me. You guys are more than welcome to come. If you guys come back with a new innovative thing that you guys are saying, hey, we figured out how to draw blood without drawing blood, please come back and let me know. And you guys will be out here anytime. So if you're able to donate blood, just by being soccer punch, you're fine. Yeah.
So, we'll work on that one, Caesar.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you'll be going to Thailand for the Muay Thai, tournaments to be able to donate blood and stuff like that. So Guys, what did you guys think about this? The video with Gunny Han.
I mean, talk about a guy with resilience. My goodness. I mean, I've never met anybody that said, "Hey, I have a hat trick in war."
Right? Congratulations, my friend. Now you know of one.
I mean, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's Tootsie Rolls at 90 below. That's saying something.
Exactly, and they used it. So he tells a story. Obviously, he loves talking about it. I don't know why. Maybe this is coping mechanism. We're talking about PTSD, and he has it pretty bad. So every time our commander actually hits the gavel, right, to call everybody to attention, he jumps up. He's just like, oh. And then my wife usually sits next to him because she's also she's a Iraq vet, so she'll sit next to him. She's like, hey, she's like, look, just look at what the commander's doing. You'll be able to figure out when he's gonna do it, so you don't get shocked when he does it. And sure enough, he's watching them, but most of the time he's asleep. So because it's past his bedtime sometimes. So it's like, it just goes to show it's pretty funny. But great dude. And like I said, he's still anywhere he goes, he still wears his uniform. And it's just awesome to see that, that type of American pride. And what the VFW calls it's Americanism, and I was actually able to hook him up with one of the middle schools here in town, where they were asking a lot of questions, and they was like, hey, I have can one of you guys come out here? I'm like, he's the perfect guy for you guys, because it was a history teacher for one, so he loved it. And he's like, man, this is awesome. And how like Bailey said, she's like, and he's just walking around Texoma, nobody would ever have known what he's doing, just a regular dude. And, he's probably seen more, obviously 96 years old, and he's seen a lifetime of things and, 3 wars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He has some wisdom to share.
Sure does. And
the other thing too is what I love most, I love a lot about that too, is it's really highlighting, wars that are a long time ago now for many of us, and many of us, don't get, especially the Korean War, it doesn't get the attention or the, the admiration as some other wars did. And there are reasons for that and whatever, but it's really nice that we're able to showcase those who really went through it, and they're still here to share their stories. So, So I'm not a veteran myself, but my father was in the Korean War, was in Vietnam, and there's not enough love for that,
Exactly. And I'm sure now there actually will be 3 war veterans now too. If you have your Desert Storm and then Iraq, and then also Afghanistan. So those are 3. Because a lot of people say, no, Afghanistan and Iraq are the same. No, they're completely 2 different theaters, completely different. They're separated by what, like 3.5 hours, I think. So it's like it's completely different. It's like no. It's a
different mission, enemy, everything. Yeah,
but different terrain too. I mean, it's like I mean, Chad, you know about that quite well.
It's tough to fight billy goats that are disguised as people. That's for sure. Yeah.
So that movie was true.
They fortunately didn't keep us place too terribly long. They would kind of send us out to go do our stuff and come on back and get out of there. But
only the National Guard stayed forever.
That's true.
Everybody else got to go home during that year. Not the National Guard. They said, nope, you're only doing 8, whatever. All right, cool. Well, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, but getting back to our point here, guys. This type of training, I'm telling you guys, this is revolutionary in a way that it's innovative. And, now we live in an age of everything's at our fingertips. And the fact that this type of training exists and it's at your fingertips and at your leisure, basically, I mean, that's a great thing to have. You know what I mean? You can do it at your own time. It's like, hey, you put the big kids to bed. All right, let's do 3 hours of, whatever. Because sometimes kids, I remember I used to put my kids to bed at like 7:00. Now it doesn't know my 7-year-old's now fighting with us. She's like, nope, I'm going to bed at 10, Dad. It's summertime. I'm like, I don't care. You kids still gonna keep this. And my mom was like, just let her. I was like, no, she got to keep the regiment. So it's a constant battle. And as you can see, I lose quite often.
Yeah, that's the challenge when they can read chapter books and you can't get by with, the evil guy. Oh, things are getting better. Oh, yeah, he won.
Yeah,
we're gonna
exactly.
Yeah, when they can read it, it becomes more challenging. When you have the headset though, is the classroom. To your point, it's not just about the teaching side of things. And you mentioned about obviously what we're here is to help people.
Right.
There's all kinds of other avenues that you can use in the headset. If you're like, hey, you want to go sit on the beach in the Maldives for 2 hours in your living room?
Yeah,
you can do that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys. So you guys were mentioning about how you could put it in kiosk mode and stuff like that. You don't need internet or Wi-Fi in order for it to do it. How, if you guys push a software update, will you, especially on a module or a course that you guys are doing, how would that go? Well, as soon as they hook up to the internet, then they'll be able to actually update the software and all that stuff?
That is correct. If there's any type of updates, kind of similar to how your satellite company at night, whether it be Spectrum or Dish or DirecTV, and you see that they've done a download, that's how they would typically do those things. And that's how all of the service is based. So that's why it goes into the actual device, and we continue to evolve with the devices that we're utilizing. So the actual administration of the course itself is the part that doesn't require you to be connected while you're doing your coursework. So to your point, the classroom then becomes the headset wherever you are. And if you're working, for example, at home and you're offline because you don't have Wi-Fi,
right?
When you go to your local Starbucks and you connect to their Wi-Fi, everything you've done automatically downloads through the telemetry, and it shows where you've completed, so that you don't lose any of the work that you've done.
Right. So with that said, I want to share with you guys the website that we're talking about, Promising People. And like I said, there is everything that you want to know about their trainings, and also how many people and the average salary and all that stuff. Obviously, this is all metric. All these metrics are probably pretty current, I would say. There you go. So yes, please take a look around and see what they actually have to offer. Like, again, they're talking about, different things that they actually offer. Look, basic education. Like, everybody needs basic education, like arithmetic and, how to balance a checkbook, because we're not getting that in our schools anymore. Home ec. I'm not saying that you guys have home ec, but I mean, these basic skills that, some of us didn't get, they're probably there. So education, finance, law, martial arts. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that I could be almost like a Bruce Lee and or a Chuck Norris?
I don't know if we can do it that well, but there's certainly things that are out there you can go do. We'll get you set up to maybe like a Tim Kennedy level. You can go roll around with him a little bit. I'm kidding.
First of all, I'm scared of that dude. Second of all, hell no. I went to a couple of when I was in Afghanistan, I went to a couple of like jujitsu classes. I was like, I'm good, man. Like, my back, like the next day I was like, I can't even move. I'm good.
He's a Wolverine on the mat, that's for sure.
Well, he's on top of that, he's like, dude, I'm good. I love I'll just watch him on TV. And one of my favorite shows that he was on, it was the Hitler Hunting for Hitler or whatever it was called. And all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I was so mad about that. Anyway, but yeah, so these are the different like I said, different programs you guys have. Continuing on, medical, science, traditional trades, technology, and soft skills. And again, these are some of the employers that you guys just look around and see what they have. But again, these are great things to have. VR career certification programs, construction trades. So like we mentioned, you'll be able to get OSHA qualified. Anything that has to do with welding, plumbing, HVAC 1 and 2. Electrical introduction, electrical helper program, carpentry. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Early childhood education. That's your nursery type of people, especially like kindergartners and preschools. Those are great things to have, and a lot of these are actually very, very what's the word? I said it earlier. It's sought out, and they're in high demand. So take a look at it. So I want to ask you guys a question in regards to what is the process like in order for me to say, you know what, I've decided, because I'm talking to you guys, I've decided I'm going to do this program, one of these programs, and what do I need to do?
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, they can go to promisingpeople.com, and we have an application they can fill out. that provides all their demographic information, and there are links that we provide on the website as well to all of the various funding applications that are out there. If they would like to be able to have one of our staff walk them through, we have folks at the resource center that will help them do that. We can do a virtual meeting just like we're doing right now. We are a virtual reality company, so
I would expect so.
we can do those types of things and be able to help them and walk them along based upon their individual situation. If they're wanting to pursue, for example, they're just wanting to get their high school diploma versus they're wanting to go and continue their education post high school, that they're wanting to just get a certificate, that they don't want to get a degree. They want to pursue a degree, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree. Everyone's circumstance is different. And so the first thing we want to do is look and see where are they with regards to their most recent educational experience and where they finished. And then look at what they're wanting to do and what programs they can align with. But all of that can be done through the website. And you can even set up a time to speak with one of our people at the resource center we're in the Eastern time zone. I know you're in Texas there, so you're an hour behind us. But at the end of the day, we work with everybody, and they can come into our offices virtually to be able to get access. So again, the entire process can be done theoretically online, because that's the way that education is moving. To where you can go in, you can do your application, you can go through the various funding sources. All of the correspondence from those funding sources happens directly back to the student. It doesn't come to us. It's all allocated directly to the student and or to their school that they're associated with, or to their last four of their social, if it's obviously a program that's out there. And so because of us and our accreditation with whether it be a state agency or a federal program or with a university, those are how the funds then get distributed to us. So essentially, we're the educational provider and simply aid the student in whatever their process they're looking at seeking, and then being able to send the headset directly to them. And, in addition to the things that we do with medical, the reason why, Promising People Medical, Caesar, to be clear, has been so important, really deals a lot with the justice impact of people. And there are people that are veterans that, unfortunately, that they become impacted by justice. And it's to try to, we have the sole source with the Florida Department of Corrections, and we're trying to expand into other states, because if we can, as people are being processed in the reception area of incarceration, we can identify some of these areas and issues. They can only get treatment on the medical side, and it can be done in a virtual setting because they're limited in the number of staff that can physically get there, and you can have a physician directing that. But because of their particular ailments and issues, we can then align them with education that puts them in a career pathway. And that's the difference in what we do that's very unique. We're not out here getting people jobs. We're not a job placement agency. 100 yards from the back of our parking lot, there's a Crystal hamburger. Getting an assistant manager job at Crystal is a job. Okay. It's not a career. Everything we do is a career pathway. If I get someone a job as a CDL truck driver and they're doing long haul trucking and they're making $76,000 a year, I feel good about that. I feel good being able to put someone an electrical helper that 4 years from now they can be a journeyman and become an electrician, and they can be making six figures a year. And same thing in plumbing and other avenues where folks have the ability to continue to grow. And on the Promising People Medical side of things, what we're able to do is look at how we can administer medical programs and help to reach people in particular that are dealing with conditions and ailments that are most impacted. So that is how we are able to help both sides of that, for someone that has autism or someone that has PTSD or someone that's dealing with some physical or other issues that are out there. So that being able to reach us is very easy. We can call, email, or go to the website.
PromisingPeople.com.
Yeah,
And,
I just want to
go ahead.
No, I just want to add to that. I think individuals, folks, and veterans who are looking, I think that's exactly the way to do it. I would also just want to say it out loud is, if there are other organizations out there who feel like this type of delivery would be beneficial for the folks that they're serving, or whether it be a group of veterans in a certain area, or whether it be folks who are working with children with special needs or other sort of population groups, etc. We're more than happy to talk to you about how we could help you if there is a way, and figuring out a way forward too. Because we know not everybody, we know folks on the line today may also be participating in other organizations. They're like, oh, wait a minute, we could use that. Well, just give us a call, and we'll see what we can do with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there too, Caesar.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm actually going to be able to help a little bit farther than that, I believe, where I can actually, hook you guys. Well, not hook you guys up, but at least introduce you to certain organizations that are looking into all this stuff, right? Because I think it's important. Networking is huge, and I think, Chad, you and I know this very well from the military. You're the first people you made friends with were the cooks and the people that provided the fuel, because you need to get from point A to point B. All right.
My guys will tell you the medic was pretty important too. So we took care of you whenever you're hungover or any other times too. So
that was number 3, but you're right. But you know what I mean? Like, I think cook and medic are right up there. But I think it also depends on your jobs, right?
That's true.
So that's what I'm saying. In my area, I think it was the cooked the fuel, because if I didn't have a fuel, I couldn't run my radar. So if my radar wasn't running, then you know what I mean. I had to do it, but I also had to be. I couldn't eat MREs, man. Oh my god, MREs suck. Anyway, we're not talking about MREs right now. We're talking about training. So with that said. PromisingPeople.com. Please go in if you're really interested in actually not interviewing, but going through any of these training programs. It's awesome. And I was just looking at some of the partnerships that you guys have right now with some of your partners. It's ABC Florida Gulf West and Bank of America. You also have the Salvation Army. And if you're in the HR world and you know anything about that, SHRM, the SHRM test, in partnership with SHRM, which is this something human resources management. I can't strategic something. Yeah. So I'm actually, and please don't get mad at me, but I'm actually going to sign up a very close person to me to actually do that specific one, because they let their SHRM certification lapse. Therefore, they need to get it back. So we're gonna have to talk. A little outside the box here, but I'm gonna definitely send somebody your way. Now, the Battle Rhythm podcast is officially making a bid, for lack of a better term, to be an official spokesman or a spokes page and or program for Promising People, because I truly believe in this type of engagement with people, and the fact that you're able to not only help veterans but help other people that are actually looking to better themselves in a different career. And if you're and please don't get mad at me when I say this, if you're in a dead end job that you're not making yourself see yourself making management, or you're not moving up or whatever, this is a way to go. This is an alternative to, doing those, University of Phoenix classes at night or doing a different thing. These are jobs that are trade, and we need a lot of trades right now. I think that's a very high demand. And I think I'm a very, very huge advocate of this. And I think, I'm sorry, again, that veterans are probably one of the primary people that actually are candidates for this type of thing, because we have, well, some of us have the discipline, because I sure as hell don't, to be sitting in front of a classroom. But if you do it on your own time, especially with these VR glasses, oh my gosh, it'll be great to do. So the show is officially putting in the bid for be a huge advocate and an ambassador for Promising People, because I think it's very important to get it out to the masses. And again, it's not just for veterans, but it's also for other people that actually feel that they're in a dead-end job, that they cannot move up, they cannot have they don't feel like a sense of A, stability, and B, they're going to be able to accomplish anything else. And this is a career change or whatever it is that you're going through. If you're going through for many of us that have been in the military, through divorces and they need to move somewhere else, life circumstances happen, and this is one way to do it. So again, The Battle Rhythm Podcast will always be a huge advocate for this, and I will be glad if you guys ever start an ambassador program for you guys to consider me as one of your ambassadors to do so. So
we would love to have you, Caesar. And it's one thing that you mentioned that's interesting. And Jonathan and I were actually speaking about this earlier today. Is that having a background, when you look at where everyone kind of comes from in the military, and talk about a melting pot. I mean, of individuals that you have, of everyone that's there. And what was interesting was that when you look at the folks that could really benefit, not just the veterans, but what happens whenever you're growing up in a military community, okay? The majority of the kids whose parents are enlisted, which are the majority of people that are on a military base, they really are contemplating what direction in life they're going to go.
Right.
And, a lot of us as parents, I mentioned I have 4 adult daughters. My eldest is 30, my youngest is 20. And, as parents, we always push them towards college. A lot of us have seen why, even myself included, after you go and spend a lot of money at school for your kids and you see what kind of degrees that they provide, et cetera, of looking at alternatives. And, in fact, I will tell you that statistically, the majority of kids that are going to college that come from military families, their parents were officers.
Right.
And so you're seeing a lot of kids that, are, and they may not learn in a traditional learning environment. And we have all these labels of why we put on Johnny, of why he's disruptive, et cetera, and acts out because he doesn't have impulse control and all these other things that we learn as we become more mature. But at the end of the day, those are the same people that we can help. Is not just the veterans themselves, but a lot of them are with their families. This time of year, kids are finishing school and the juniors going to high school next year to become seniors, looking at what they want to do as a career field. And then more importantly, we're in the age of immediate gratification. What is the generation alpha that we're in now? I think it is.
Yeah.
I'm a Gen Xer. I think you are too.
I am.
We're exactly. We're all great. If you haven't been hit by a car and shot at least once, you're not a kid of the 70s. So, at the end of the day, we start seeing these kids and they want immediate gratification. Well, that kind of goes aligned with what we're doing at Promising People, because the capability of the technology and where we're going with things allows someone that literally in a matter of weeks, and that's not an overemphasis. It's a matter of weeks, has the ability to change their trajectory to be able to get the same certification that they can go and do something for 6 to 9 months. Or if they want to become recession proof, we've had some people that have come in and taken multiple courses where they want to do HVAC 1 and 2, plumbing 1 and 2. They want to get their CDL truck driving license. They want to get their welding certification because they want to be able to show up on a job site and say, listen, I can do all of these things. And because that we've been able to prop them up with other strategic relationships, as you mentioned before, that's how we can do things. So when you mentioned, can we guarantee people positions? No. But if you know that one of the executives, has a family member that happens to be an executive at Waste Management, that they have a need for tens of thousands of drivers, and you have a truck driving program, unless you're really, going in there and insulting somebody, there's a lot of opportunities that are out there. Right. And there are a lot of companies that are out there. And frankly, having been on the other side and being the employer now, people that look for veterans and they look for people that played athletics.
Exactly.
These are two things that if a veteran will parlay that, and it's because you work in diverse environments, you learn quickly because you have to. We're all taught go or no go. C1, do 1, 2, roll, let's go. High speed, low drag, all the other accolades that we learn.
Oh yeah.
And you have that capability to bring that and bring the wisdom that you have from that side and being able to apply it, you really can do something that's different. And I think the biggest thing that we do for the veteran community is remove that fear of time. And I know some really tough guys. I mean, I arguably work with the toughest dudes on the planet Earth, and that's not a joke.
Yeah, I have the pictures to prove it.
and at the end of the day, I mean, they won't tell you that, hey, I don't really want to invest the time to go do that. I really don't want to do that. I'll suck it up here and I'll do that. Johnny's a year out and he'll be going to high school soon or whatever. You don't have to. There's avenues now that you can achieve those goals and be able to do it far more expeditiously than what traditionally we've been taught that we had to do. And for most of you that are out there that have access to Montgomery GI, if they've accessed the full amount that's out there, to go out there and get one of these certifications literally would use about 22% of it. So you still would have funds that are left should you take additional courses or continue your education in another area.
That's so awesome. And I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, being that I'm the eternal student, I will never probably stop learning. And if you stop learning, then there's something wrong with you, right? So you always want to learn something new. You said you're not just limited to that one course. You can definitely take multiple courses to be well-rounded, right? And be able to do that. Now, every time they want to take a different course, say they change, not that they change their mind, but they say, hey, maybe I should get this. You know, give me a certification as a, you know, we know it as a combat lifesaver, you know, somebody that is a certified, you know, CPR or whatever. I know you guys don't have CPR on it just yet, or I don't think, but to be more well-rounded, do they have to go through the process of actually being admitted again, or you can just take those courses? Okay.
They not only do they not have to go through that, and it's a great question. The cost for it is about 28% less because they already have. You mentioned earlier, do they own the headsets? So
which is the biggest price, right? I mean, that's the biggest cost, right?
Yeah, that's almost $1,600 is for a headset. And so at the end of the day, when you already have a headset and all I have to do is push another program to your headset, we do that all the time. In fact, there, you know, in state agencies such as vocation rehabilitation, they will approve courses for up to a 90-day period. And so some people, because of the time that they can complete courses in, we've had a veteran that completed our electrical helper course in 4 days. 4 days. I mean, he was facing some extenuating life circumstances. I don't want to tell anyone that that's the average, but you know, I'm never going to lie to anybody. And here's the other thing you haven't asked is, you know, in thousands of certifications, how many have failed? We've had one. And it was because afterward, the gentleman didn't want to admit that he was ordered. And
that was me. That was me.
Well, I know. We literally, and so afterward, we you know, he said, hey, listen, he wanted to go to the ATB program. He dropped out of high school in the 9th grade. And so you know, to be able to go back through that. And so, you know, we've dealt with extenuating circumstances. You know, there's a lot of similarities people don't realize between incarceration and also being in the military. And so, you know, when you go in and we do cohorts where it's the best of the best, where everybody's the trustees, et cetera, and you're like, okay, well, how many people do they give you? Well, they gave you 25 people for 6 weeks. Well, how many certifications did they do? 259. No, it's pretty impressive. Then they have you come back 3 months later and they give you the worst of the worst. They're like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. Well, how many did they do? Well, same number of people that we had, 25, same duration, 6 weeks, we did 256. So they did 3 less. But the point being is that it didn't matter what their behavioral issues were because we eliminated the behavioral issues. You asked about things that are out there. There's people that are that people talk about being triggered or activated, et cetera. There's all types of terms for it. Until we probably get past the half-century mark, we're all a little too full of testosterone, you know, types of things. And at the end of the day, you know, it deals with this in a way that is easy to learn, that allows for whether you're a traditional learner or a non-traditional learner to be able to access things in a way that makes sense. And that they can practice and they can continue to practice, and that they can access these other classes without it having to be an additional cost that's equal to another course. I mean, you could go through in some of these other classes that we offer as English as a secondary language and being able to place them in an ability to benefit and things like that. If they already have a headset, can be as little as $1,000. So awesome. Those types of things really help people.
Right. And, you guys don't know this, but actually I went through an ESL course because English is my second language. When my parents brought me here when I was 11, and I had to go through back then it was ESL, and now, you know, and first and foremost, let me just say I was not DACA. Okay, I was not a Dreamers. That was way after. Okay, I was a survival. It was way different. Okay, so it's survival. But the fact that you're, and again, I don't have a problem with the fact that it's ESL. The thing that I want to clarify for me is that if you're going to be working and taking anything here in the U.S., the least you could do is have the basic understanding of the English language, right? because it's important. You said in some of the states actually offer, the driving test in, whatever language or native language they have. I get that. I get that. But if now, like you mentioned earlier, where you had the truck driver that had to, basically read whatever he was putting in front of him, that they have to basically have an understanding of what they're reading, what they're doing. Yeah, he may have the, perfect record, impeccable record, and, a million miles on the road, whatever. You still have to be able to read and write, because you still have to communicate with, your bosses, via email, because pretty much everything is being done by email, text, or whatever, right? So it's imperative that you need to know at least the basic understanding of the English language, which is great. So it's awesome, the fact that I do that. So yes, I learned how to true story. You guys are gonna know a little bit about Caesar. I actually learned how to speak English by watching Police Academy.
Yeah, I believe it. I have a good friend she was with her family in Costa Rica, and she learned Spanish by watching The Simpsons, literally.
Yeah.
And whatever works, right? And so what we're doing here is we're not as clever as the developers of The Simpsons, maybe, and others, but we do have ways in order for other people to learn things that actually they can, that can better their lives or their families and friends' lives. The one thing I just wanted to note, Cesar, I think, at the end of the day, too, is it's really around, also, if you think about it, too, a lot of the skills that we have here, the work world is shifting, and it's shifting very, very quickly.
Yes.
Right? The blue collar, white collar divide is going away at a blink of an eye. And the blue collar divide to the white collar, in my opinion, and it's slowly suffocating unless you have certain credentials to do certain things, right? But what happens here is you could have folks that go through our electrical helper or maybe some of the carpentry courses, the HVAC courses. They learn the trade a year or two. They put that entrepreneurial hat on. And then the next thing you know is you may have a business in 2 or 3 years. And there is a massive, massive demand for that. And, we have developers and builders all the time that say, we need 500 carpenters. We need, 1,000 HVAC people for this big project that we're doing somewhere. Somebody needs to hire them, right? And we don't have the people to do it. So I also think what you're finding culturally is there's a paradigm shift as to what is valued in our society and what will be valued in our society. And that's where my 2 cents is an opinion. I think that's where we're going. And there's immense opportunity for folks. And if you get past that, like, that's not what I sort of envisioned myself going to school for. You get past that, and then, dollars speak volumes.
Exactly.
There are guys who run these businesses who make some serious money. And it's not because they went to a 4-year school and, graduated in liberal arts.
That reminds me of a story of that I've read on, of all places, Facebook or Book of the Faces, whatever you want to call it. I'm not endorsing it or whatever, but there was a story about there was a ship that actually had some faults, and then they thought that the engineers would actually had rectified the problem, and obviously they didn't, and it was still making noises. And so they call a master, engineer or whatever. He comes in and takes his little pin, the peen hammer, the little bitty one, and he starts tapping it. And he's like, okay. And he finds the problem. He's like, okay, that'll be $20,000. He's all, how the hell did you find that in 2 minutes? He's all, that's experience, my friend. He's all, and so, but he got paid for the experience, not because he knew what it was. So again, you are being paid for the experience. So to your point is that if you are able to actually get to that entrepreneurial part of, once, 3 or 4 years down the road, man, the sky's the limit at that point.
It really is. It really is.
And so before we start anything else, we have come to the part of the show where I, or the Battle Rhythm Podcast, is able to do and completely shock the guest, because this is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. And by the way, before we actually get to that, I want to reiterate how important this thing is going to be. And this is what's going to happen, guys. The telethon is happening June 7th between 12 and 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, June 7th. It'll start off in Toronto. Then it will go live to Chicago. Then from there, we'll go live to Phoenix. And then right after that, we're going to close the show with LA. So a lot of the interviews that I have been conducting will be actually aired during that time, and you'll be able to watch these interviews and many, many more musical acts, entertainment, interviews, all kinds of stuff with through Voice of the People, USA Radio and TV Network, VUC Digital, and also through Patriot Radio out of the Florida area. And again, it's going to be super, super awesome to actually see all these acts and the fact they're coming together for the veterans through People for a New America and Veterans First Initiative. I mean, guys, you can't go wrong with that. It's just an awesome thing that they're doing. And I talk to Richie Onari all the time, who is the founder of the People for a New America, and he's become one of my best friends. He calls me daily. Caesar, where we at? Caesar, where we at? I was like, Richie, I'm at work. I will call you. I'll call you when I'm done. No, all kidding aside, I love that man. His heart is in the right place, and this is why I was able to partner up with him. And I was just humbled at the fact that they chose my show to actually be their interview people. And I know they're doing interviews themselves as well. But to me, I was able to interview a couple of weeks ago the chief, the commander in chief for the VFW, Al, the real deal Liphart. He was here. He actually came to the studio, came to see me. And he's like, dude, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right. I was like, thanks, Chief. It was awesome. And then after that, I was able to actually, the couple of weeks before, I was able to actually interview a Medal of Honor recipient, Doc Ballard. Great interview. The guy is so involved, and he's like involved in like 34 different organizations. And I was like, Doc, we're gonna be able to partner up and do all this. So he's like, yep. He's all, just give me a minute. I was like, no problem. We'll get through that. So, all right, let's get to this. I am going to shock you guys by actually going through one of my very, 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 and actually the people's favorite segment of the show. It's called Rapid Fire Questions. Here we go. Rapid Fire Questions is brought to you by EGA Construction out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, owned and operated by U.S. Marine veteran Lynn Tuma, who is also running for the Junior Vice Commander in Chief for the National VFW out of the Texas area, and we will know who will win that race in August. So that will be fun to go see. And obviously, being a Texas guy, I am supporting a Texas guy, even though, sorry about that, Scott, but you know I love you. Scott Gedling, who's also one of my other sponsors, Scott's Construction LLC. They believed in what I'm doing, so thank you to those guys for what they do. Scott is out of the Department of Alabama. He's also running for the Junior Vice Commander-in-Chief for the VFW. Nationally, so that's going to be a very, 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 very tight race. So we'll see what happens in August. So I will have the winner with us once they do win, and we'll be doing that. So, all right, back to our regularly scheduled program and segment. Rapid Fire Questions is a fan favorite. So the premise of this, it's not a game, but the premise of this segment is to actually ask you questions. And Chad, I know you know rapid fire questions. You don't bullshit a bullshitter. And so whatever comes out to mind, it's super quick, and that's the point. And people don't really realize, or sometimes they have to think about it. If you have to think about it, it's not a rapid fire. You know what I mean? It's just like you have to be quick witted to be able to answer some of these questions. And always, as an example, when I start with these questions, I always ask, Jonathan, what is your favorite book?
Oh, The Jungle Book.
See, that was pretty quick. Chad, what's your favorite military movie?
Platoon.
Ah, damn it, dude! I was gonna say Highway. Like, what is the one with Gunny Highway? God dang it, Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, that's Tropic Thunder, right? Oh no, Gunny Highway. That's
Heartbreak Ridge, man. Come on.
Oh, Heartbreak. Oh, guy.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the whole premise of the questions, right? Like, it's just as soon as you get something, I ask a question. It's the first thing that comes in mind is what it is.
Okay.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be political. It's
Mr.
not.
Blue. My answer
This
is
is
blue
not-
or 7.
This is not political. It is not a political show. This is why we have Politishock, which is one of our other shows here on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network. That is on every Thursday at 9 p.m. With the one and only Dan Smeriglio, who's also running for the U.S. Senate for the state of Maine. And his whole thing is let's make Maine great again. And so, a Republican guy, you know, we can say, hey, dude. Love the guy to death, and he gave me an opportunity to be actually part of his network. So here I am on Voice of the People, thanks to Dan Smeriglio. So Dan Smeriglio for U.S. Senate 2026. That's $200, dude. All right, here we go, Jonathan. I'm gonna start with you, and again.
Yeah, I got it. I got the rules, I think.
I think that's a very dangerous statement, my friend.
Well,
right.
I mean, it's not thinking. Go ahead. Go. Ready.
All right. What is the best Star Wars movie?
Oh, Return of the Jedi.
Okay. What is the best franchise for this Star Wars?
What's the best franchise?
Yeah, man. There's several franchises now.
I'm not a Star Wars buff, so this is not good.
Okay.
The first
Stick
one?
to Star Wars. Yeah, just fine.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Shoot, I can't ask those questions because you're still under the secrecy and DNAs and all that stuff. So I can't ask any of those questions to Chad. So I'm just gonna go with body count. No, I'm just kidding. Body count. Just kidding. 7-Eleven. Oh shit. That. All right. Favorite place you visited?
Oh, personal. I would say the best place we visited. That's a tough one. I would say I like going to Anna Maria Island. That's where we're from. It's tough to beat it.
the shittiest place you've been to?
Tunisia.
What?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Oh, dude, I thought you were literally going to say like Iraq or Afghanistan, man. Because that, I mean.
Yeah, well, my eye color doesn't go real well in places in Africa. I can promise you that. So they don't like a whole lot there.
So after we're done with this, I have to tell you guys a story about.
Okay.
I wasn't in Syria. We weren't in Syria, but I was in Syria. Anyway, so Jonathan,
I haven't been to a lot of those places.
And my bullshit meter just went this way. All right, Jonathan, what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's got to be Top Gun. It just was.
Okay, first of all, the original?
Yeah, no, the original. The original. That like structured my whole life, dude.
Okay.
Like, you know.
So little tidbit of secrecy here. Do you guys remember the MiG pilot, right, on the original Top Gun?
Yeah.
So the MiG pilot was actually the air boss when I was in the active duty Navy. He was the air boss on the ship I was on, the USS John C. Stennis. He was the pilot that piloted that MiG.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Anyways, I got stories for days, but it's not my show right now. This is your show for right now. All right, Chad. What is the funniest predicament you've been in while you were in uniform?
He's getting all the questions. Go ahead, Chad.
Technically, getting in a little bit of trouble for going off course because we didn't really know where we were in Fort Bragg, and they said use any means necessary to get back, and we may have liberated some clothing from a laundromat and got so that was probably a tough one to talk about.
Man, that's funny. Jonathan, what is one of the funniest or the worst predicaments you've been in?
Being robbed was pretty bad. Funniest.
What? I hope it wasn't at gunpoint because that would just started a whole chain.
No, it was knife point, if that helps. Multiple knives. The funniest predicament. I coach kids soccer, and I think the funniest thing was I had a parent come one time to show the coach how to do things, and he had to do let me show you how to do this exercise thing, and then he gets in there and he like blows out his freaking knee. And it was just one of these things. Like, Daddy's like, "Oh no, this is how you do it, coach." And then he comes on the field, and there you go. That's not happening anymore. So that was pretty funny. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
I know I'm not doing too well here, Caesar. I'll work on this.
Well, first of all, this is your one and only chance, my friend. I was kidding. Because the next time you're on the show, you're already going to know the premise of it. So I got to come up with a different thing. Like I only do this with people that I haven't had or haven't had the chance to actually see the show, because it's a lot of the time, right? They're like, "Oh, you have a show?" Yeah, man. I sent you the link. Oh yeah. It was, especially when it started. So when I first started the show, it was actually supposed to be an informational channel for the Post, for the VFW Post here in town. And then I got picked up by Military Broadcast Radio out of Colorado. And I went from tens of listeners, right? From 0 listeners to tens of listeners. And then when I got picked up by Voice of the People, U.S.A. Radio and TV Network, I went from tens of listeners to hundreds of thousands of listeners like overnight. It was, dude, the growth of this show has been tremendous, and I am humbled beyond belief, because I can't believe that I get to act stupid over the time and ask some of these questions, and I get to meet very, very interesting people. And it's awesome because, again, like making these like Chad said, strategic partnerships with different things and being involved in things, as a veteran who wanted to keep serving in different aspects of servitude, having a microphone in front of my face and being able to have a platform to bring organizations like yours to light, so people realize what's going on, what other alternatives they have, is very rewarding to me. Mm-hmm. And I love feeling that way, because I don't, am I bragging a little bit? Perhaps, but it's the fact that I have a platform to be able to do so, right? And I'm able to help a lot of people that maybe on their last end, they have they feel like they have no other hope, no other way. And I always try to tell them, get involved. If you want to change the world or change your community, get involved. That is the biggest thing to do, right? Get involved. Doesn't matter if you get involved in your local politics, which you'll probably be good because you're community, right? Or get involved in, and there's tons of organizations out there, the Lions Club, the Elks, they're out there. It doesn't matter what it is, just get involved, and then get involved in helping your community and being able to do something else other than for yourself. Because some of the
best medicine out there is helping other people. It just is. It really is.
Exactly. And Mr. Hahn will tell you, Gunny Hahn will tell you that he did say it on the video, that he does it because he misses the camaraderie, right? That's exactly why he does it. And I'm sure Chad, will tell you that he can attest to this. Is like, yeah, we just pick up exactly where we left off 5 years ago, right? Yeah. Hey, you're a shithead. Yeah, you're a shithead too. Well, cool. Let's go have a beer. That type of thing. It is completely different. So, yeah, just get involved.
I heard a comedian talked about that similarly. He's like, he saw his buddy for a round of golf after not seeing him for 4 years, and he's like, well, "What about Jenny and the kids?" He's like, "I'm sure they're all fine. How do you know they're not dead? I've known Peter a long time. If they were all dead, he would have mentioned that. I'm sure they're fine." We're talking about dumb shit like that. We got other things to do. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it light.
Exactly.
No, in all sincerity, Caesar, probably what people don't see, and we don't get paid to come do any of this stuff, et cetera, is that we're privileged to be on here, and you're very passionate about what you do. And for veterans, you text me personally behind the scenes, Jonathan the same way, and your audience is lucky to have you. So thank you for having us and for giving us an opportunity to be part of your platform and for everything you're doing for the veterans community. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate you you not ducking my calls. I'm just kidding. I've been ignored before, and it's going to happen again. But no, it's all good, man. I really appreciate you guys extending your organization here to our audience, because again, it's important to have a. My wife calls it a backup plan. I just call it more education, right? But a lot of people are are looking to change jobs, or circumstances tells them that they need to change things, right? So this is that's important about it. And I know we've already touched a lot of this before with the last 2 hours we've been harping on it. So right now, the show is supposed to be 2 hours. I don't really care. I have plenty of time. I'm sure you guys do too. Not but you guys are more than welcome to stay. I can go all night. I really don't care, because I do care, because I gotta go to bed. I get up at 3 a.m. to go to work, but it's all good, because this is important to actually have a really good conversation about many different topics. And like you said, one of the ones that it's more important is veteran training and being able to actually have different alternatives. So that's really good. Let me ask you this, and I'll go with Jonathan in regards to this, because I know, and this is not, again, this is I just want to see where you stand, like, politically about this, because it's not political, but where you stand as far as, like, we have this is not morals. I think this is more of a against or for or against, right? So the state of Texas actually had a bill that actually was just squashed, even though a lot of the policymakers were actually saying, oh yeah, we're going to pass it for veterans that were able to use CBD oil, CBD based and THC based things like that. And you've been in the medical field for a long time. Where do you feel that CBD oils and I don't know if it's really THC, but like hemp products have a big impact on veterans, that they could actually help? Do you think that they actually do help?
I think there's a ton of opportunity for it. I think, one of the things that you often see when it comes to things that are, where the mood and the sort of the perspective of society is changing, right? Now, you didn't say THC, but that's where I think you've had the bigger paradigm shift in terms of, this is a therapeutic and this is helpful for some. Right. I think, at the end of the day, people dictating to others what they should and shouldn't have, unless there's a clear cut, health concern, like you can OD on this or this and that. Otherwise, to my opinion, the government really shouldn't be that involved in that. And I'm a guy who does a lot of that type of work, but so maybe it's a little bit of paradoxical to say it that way. But I think really, we have to enable people to have a degree of autonomy and self-respect for being able to make their own decisions and apply things that work. So from my perspective, I don't see any concerns with that necessarily. I don't think hemp is a product that you would smoke and get, stoned and then drive off the bridge and hit somebody. I don't know, maybe it is, but I think really at the end of the day, it really comes down to the individual and allowing the individuals to make the right decisions with the right information too.
Right.
That's
I
always
think,
an important thing.
I think really the whole basis of this is because I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and they're on like 23 different subscriptions, right? And it's like, I don't know about you, Chad, but every time I go to the VA, I feel like they're just trying to push all these different medications, be like, oh, you do this. Why? Like, there's so many more alternatives that can actually that we can have, and CBD based products is one of them. And especially for like pain relief, I know there's like a roll-on tape, not roll-on tape, but roll-on oil that actually a lot of times actually takes the pain away a lot better than an ibuprofen does, or an aspirin does. And I just think that it should be up to the veteran to actually be able to make that decision for themselves.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in here if you don't mind. Now, I'm going to try and stray away from being too political. I grew up in I don't know if I told you this, Caesar, but I grew up in the military. My dad was a serviceman.
You did, yeah.
We grew
Korea
up
and Vietnam. Yep.
And World War II. An older father, similar to the anyway.
And you didn't say that earlier? Oh, dude! Like, did you know this, Chad? That his dad was actually 3, and you? Oh, okay. Oh my
anyway, what it meant was that I grew up overseas on U.S. military bases, right? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think it gave me a little bit of a different perspective around how medicine is conducted. I was born in the U.K. and my dad was in the U.S. military and my mother's British, etc. But they treat medicine differently there, and I'm not suggesting it's the right way or the wrong way. And having worked in the regulatory side for healthcare now, coming up on 20 years, one of the things that and the reason I sort of did the political caveat at the beginning is we have now an administration, especially on the HHS side, the Kennedy side of the House, who really are trying to do 2 things, in my opinion. And I agree with most of the premise. And the 2 things they're trying to do is, one is they want better research and public information as to what is out there and what you're taking, right? What shots are you doing? What evidence is there to suggest that it's going to work? What are the side effects, et cetera? Because information is gold, and it's really skewed in one way and not the other, and it's not designed for public consumption, right? It's designed to get through regulatory processes and get approvals, and then make the guys who gave you all the venture money up and up front, right? That's one thing. The other thing too is the way that medicine, in my opinion, that is practiced in the U.S., not being a physician, I'm not a physician, but it is a there's really a pharmacological basis for treating medicine that in many, many ways isn't probably the right answer, and certainly not where you probably would want to start with. And one of the things that I've, through the MAHA movement and all of those folks, not advocating for them, but they are trying to provide better information to people, and then also promote alternative ways of conducting at least some of the preliminary preventive medicine, so that folks have other options and other ways to deal with it.
Right.
So your idea, your example of a veteran who's got a cocktail of drugs, 20, 25 different drugs, it's probably ripping them to pieces inside. Right. And nobody's even looking and talking about that, because it's all symptom-based treatment, right? What is the symptom? Not so much what is the cause. And are there other ways to treat the symptoms that don't have sort of the lingering longer term effects that the medications do? Because we know that they do, even though we don't have a good information as to what that really is. So my basis of that is, if you can provide better information and it is available for veterans to as an alternative to some drugs and other things that you become a dependency, not so much, not necessarily opioid dependency, but more of a social sort of, I need this in order to operate dependency, a mental dependency, the better. And the better. And, one of the struggles you have with certain medications, especially for veterans who are receiving their care through the VA, is they have a fee schedule, they have approved medications, et cetera. And getting that to be expanded is a challenge. It's not impossible, but it is a challenge. And, I think having a more open mind to the extent that we can, and allowing people to be autonomous with their health and make their own informed decisions, the better. And so that's my political statement of the evening, and I think that's kind of where I stand on stuff. And in the UK, bring that back, their approach is, we're not going to pump you with drugs. We're actually probably not going to see you for a long time, because we think you're going to get better and you're just making this shit up. Right. And so and there's some truth to that as well, because they don't do the battery of tests that you would necessarily get here. Now, what's better? I need to get 15,000 different exams because I have a headache, or I'm going to wait 3 months and then I might get the 15,000 exams later. Right. And so I think there's a lot of lessons learned around how other cultures and society do it. And also, if we remember that our system is sort of structured in a way to benefit those that provide the system. Right. And changing that direction is very difficult, but it's not impossible.
Well, that's great. No, that's a very good stance to have, and you didn't get political at all, which is good. But let me just say that the reason I asked that is because last week I actually had a guest by the name of John Spignola, who's actually trying to get a bill passed in Congress, in the House as well, for written and informed consent. meaning that, again, we talked about the cocktail of drugs that, veterans go into the VA and all they're doing is just being fed these things. And a lot of the times, you were taking certain drugs, or certain prescriptions, and you become detached from reality. You have like no emotion. There's nothing there. You're just a blank stare. It's a 1,000-mile stare, a 1,000-yard stare, and all you're doing is just surviving or living. That's it. You have no emotion whatsoever. Hey, how you feeling? Okay. Are you doing okay? Yep. Nothing. There's just nothing there. And so what he's trying to do is trying to pass this thing called written and informed consent, meaning that when a patient and or a veteran goes into the VA, they have every right to know what they're ingesting into their bodies as far as the prescriptions are concerned, right? So that's what he's really trying to pass. And I invite you guys to actually watch that episode of last week's episode, because it was very, very informative in the fact that that's a great cause, because again, not a lot of people will actually take the time to do this, to do that type of thing where, you're advocating for, yes, veterans, but also for other people that actually just, are convinced that, they're hypochondriacs and they'll go into the doctor for whatever reason. They're taking so many drugs that 27 of them in the morning, 13 in mid-afternoon, and then 40 at night, just so they can sleep. And it's just important for you to know what those side effects are, because a lot of times they will not tell you what the long-term effects and the side effects that they're going to have and what you're taking. So like, oh no, this will be good for you, to take it. Well, but it's also up to you, to your own advocate, and actually say, hey, what is it that what is this going to do to me? Like, is it going to like bring my blood pressure? Is it going to be messing up with the other one? Is it, it's just, you have to be well informed, and you have to do your own research for that. So, again, I think that's important.
Do you know why? Was it just a vote thing, or just a lobbying out front?
So here in Texas, it was. I don't know and I'm trying to get actually Mitch Fuller, who is the VFW national chairman for legislative affairs. He's actually was in because he's out of the state of Texas. So I'm trying to get him out here to actually we can talk about that, and because it was a very important. And our current senior vice commander for the VFW was actually in the Texas Senate, testifying in front of them, saying, "No, this is this is what I've done. I've been taking CBD products forever. It's helping with my mood. It's helping with my with my my back, and I'm able to function a lot better, and things like that." So he actually testified in front of them, and from what I understand, there were promises made by a lot of these lawmakers, and all of a sudden they did not pass it. There were like people that had said yes, all of a sudden did not vote the way that we thought they were going to vote. Therefore, the bill was squashed. So I don't know if it was again. I don't know if it was a political reason or if it was because they I don't know. I that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. But I'm trying to get him on, and he's he's tired because he literally just got off of the floor. He was there like almost every day for the last 2 weeks in Austin, at the Capitol, and he was just going back and forth. And it was like, he's like, dude, I'm like exhausted. I'm like, you know what? I will talk to you on our state convention, which is going to be in June 5th next week, and I'm like, I'll talk to you then, and we'll hopefully be able to get some answers as to why. But yeah, so it's important. But I do invite you guys to actually watch last week's episode because it's very important. I think you'll be able to, and I don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure there's an Easter egg there for you.
The important things, Caesar.
Just saying, Easter egg. So like I told you, I was going to be an advocate and an ambassador for you guys, dude. I've been talking about you guys for quite a bit. I think since we first met about a month and a half ago. Ever since then, I told my wife about it, and she's like, dude, maybe I could go back and do it. She was actually the one with the SHRM certification that actually lapsed. Okay. So I was like, I might have a solution for you. So because she's also wanted to be a nurse too. So
happy to help her.
There we go. So now I have
Thank you for being on the show, Caesar. We love it,
dude. I'm telling you, man. You guys are friends of the show. You can come back anytime, and I'm pretty mad at Eric at the fact that Eric Fogelsing that he was not able to come or did not remember to come. I'm gonna give him a pass for one time. The next time, sorry, Eric. You're I'm just kidding.
We'll
let him know. We've had a very busy day over here. So,
yeah, I'm sure you guys are in meetings. You know,
he has a good doctor's note.
Yeah, that doctor's note for me is called "The wife didn't allow me to do it."
That's right.
Say, you know what I'm saying? No, I'm just messing with you.
And the other thing I just wanted to say, Cedar, before we end this, I just wanted to also, give a shout out to Richie, because if it wasn't for Richie, we wouldn't have been talking today. And he connected me to you, I think, right? And and that's what got us here today. So if he's listening, thank you, Richie. I will call you when he's not on stage in Vegas or whenever. I don't remember where I talked to him, but he was on his way to Vegas to a show or something. So thank you.
Yeah, they actually just did. I was talking. He called me on his way to a gig last week. He's like, "Hey, we're doing a hush hush gig over in LA, in Hollywood somewhere." And he's like, don't, it's hush hush. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to tell the next guy over who's going to know exactly where, the I was going to say the West, but that's in New York, but whatever, the Palladium in Hollywood is at, you know what I mean? But it's a great thing. And a lot of people, when I start telling them about Richie and the work he's done, they're like, well, who's that? I'm like, you guys remember, again, Chad, you and I know this from, way back as Tia Carrere was hot. Like in our teenage years, right? In Wayne's World, and then Ballroom Blitz, that was his song. I was like, you did that song? I was like, yeah. And it was a cool little thing. I never thought that he was gonna be one of my very good friends now, because like I said, we talk daily, and he put a lot of trust in me doing these interviews for the telethon, and I'm just super excited. And Richie is his heart is in the right place, like I said, and he's a go-to dude. So stand-up guy. But is there any closing remarks that you guys would like to say?
Next time I come on, since we talked about the Ballroom Blitz, I'll tell a story about downtown Julie Brown at the NBA All-Star Week in Orlando.
Yes. Actually, I'm gonna have you back, Chad, because no offense, Jonathan, but I know Chad has plenty of stories that we could talk about on the military side, because that's a very, he was able to transition from what he did in the military to what he's doing now is a big change, right? Because it's a big adjustment. So I would like to definitely bring you back and actually, just basically have what I call a Seinfeld show, because it's full of nothing. And it's just a show about everything about nothing, or nothing about everything, whichever way you want to put it. Those are the type of shows that I have.
That's the perfect type of agenda for me.
Exactly. Like before the show started, Chad asked me, he's like, so how's this going to go? I was like, and I didn't even stick to what I told him, because I said, oh yeah, we're going to do a national day calendar of, by the way, thanks for reminding me. So today is,
I went on Chat GPT just to see if there was anything you were going to pull out there. I'm like, what's happened, in history?
Well, I didn't really see anything, dude. Like, so today's a National Grape Day. Like, who cares?
I thought you were going to go with the 1941. The German battleship Bismarck is sunk by British forces during World War II. When you pulled up the veteran, I thought that's the one you're going with. So.
Well, I did. Wild Bill Hickok. He was born in 1837 and died in 1876. He was a cowboy, a gunfighter, a professional gambler, and a scout. So there you go. Let's see who else. Hubert Humphrey, 38th Vice President of the United States, 1911 to 1978. Oh shit, he died when I was born. Who else? A lot of these. Huh?
Vincent Price, right?
Oh yeah, Vincent
Iconic
Price,
American actor and horror guy. You'll see.
He was the voice of the Michael Jackson Thriller.
Yeah.
No way.
Yes, Vincent Price. He does that like he's this is Vincent Price, and at the very end of it,
he does the whole montage and
did we just school you right now, Jonathan? I mean,
I'm in school the last few hours. What are you talking?
If you were a fan of Iron Eagle and Iron Eagle 2, Louis Gossett Jr. was born this day in 1936, according to Chat GPT. So there you go.
He just passed away not too long ago, actually. Yeah. Let's see. 1927, Ford Motor Company ceases manufacture of the Ford Model T.
Yeah.
Then 1930, the Chrysler Building in New York City opens to the public. In 1933, the Federal Securities Act is signed into law, requiring the registration of securities with the Federal Trade Commission. I wonder why.
There's apparently a secret floor on the Chrysler Building.
Right.
Yeah, I work there. There is
a secret what?
Floor.
Oh, that's like the secret basketball court in at the top of the Matterhorn in Disneyland. That didn't exist. Or Club 33. Did you guys know about that? Club 33 in Disneyland is actually, there's 33 levels of masonry, right? So Club 33, it is like, I think it's expensive to actually have dinner there. It's like $100,000 or something exuberant like that. Yeah, it's stupid. I'm like, I'll never have that money. Anyway, 1933, the short film Three Little Pigs by Walt Disney is released. In 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge opens to pedestrian traffic. 1941, President Roosevelt proclaims an unlimited national emergency for supplies to aid war efforts. And in 1958, Ernest Greens becomes the first black student to graduate from Little Rock Central High School. And that today's, my friends, brings us to the history of the day, what happened on today's day on May 27th of those years. So yes, that is that's usually how I start the show, but I really ended the show with it, which is fine. It's fine. It's fire. Anyway, but guys, I really had a lot of fun talking to you guys, and again, I'm just super excited the fact that you guys bring such a, I'm going to say it again, innovative way of teaching and being able to do it. So if any of you listeners out there are looking to trade, looking for a new way out, a new job, new training, anything that has to do with, life circumstances, or you just literally basically in a dead-end job, please give these guys a look. Promisingpeople.com, looking through their curriculum and see what they have. There are plenty of I don't want to say targets, plenty of different ways to actually look into it as far as the the curriculum that they have. So I'm going to pull it up one more time. And again, I was looking at the different organizations that you guys have there. So let's go to the educational programs. Again, some of these are traditional trades, technology, science, medical, legal. Look at that. You could be a CSI if you really wanted to be like NCIS person, like, Gibbs or whatever, or Gibbs. There you go. You could do that. Virtual reality, soft skills, basic education. So you could definitely learns your arithmetic, because you don't know 2 + 2 is 6. Which is fine. Education, and then finance. And again, you want to be Chuck Norris. There you go. You do some martial arts. And you guys know that Chuck Norris will be able to pull a wheelie with a unicycle.
Very good.
Oh, those are.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We really appreciate the time and look forward to coming back.
Oh, hey, you guys, I made it a point to actually have you guys back because I really felt it was a very important topic for us to cover. And if you guys ever want to come back, please let me know. And Chad, I would like to talk to you offline before we leave, right after we're done. And Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you were the only one that I talked to that week before, and then everybody else is like, "Oh yeah, we gotta reschedule," which is fine. I'm glad I was able to give you guys 2.5 hours of great coverage because, again, this is a very innovative program that you guys have, and please take advantage of it. Perhaps sometimes if they're able to, if the cost is right, probably at no cost to you, especially if you're a veteran, you'll never know if you don't try it, you'll never know whether or not you're gonna be able to do it. But with that said, you guys, thank you so much for listening to the Battle Rhythm podcast here on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network, UC Digital, and Patriot Radio, and very, very soon coming to our own platform where we're going to have a plethora of things. Rumble, Roku TV, Fire TV, where it's going to be on Apple TV. Dude, anything you think of, it's going to be on. So, yes, the network is growing. The network is expanding. And we are very, very excited that you guys are part of our growth. And thank you guys so much for listening to the Battle Rhythm podcast here on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network, VUC Digital, and Patriot Radio. And with that, I bid you adieu. Please, next week, be back here next week with, I do have a very, 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 very good guest next week. It's going to be a therapist. We're going to be talking about our feelings next week. So please stay tuned with that. It's going to be fun. And with that, you guys, please be humble, be servant, and please remember, this is a public service announcement. Do not ever, ever, ever thank a veteran on Memorial Day, because it's not about a veteran. It's about the people that didn't come home. So don't thank a veteran for their service on those days, because it's not the right time. So yeah, that's your PSA. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for sticking by, and we will see you then. Thank you for watching. As we wrap up today's show, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support and engagement means the world to us, and we hope you found today's content insightful and entertaining. This episode, along with all previous shows, is available on all major media platforms. Whether you prefer to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch YouTube, we got you covered. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more listeners just like you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Connect with us on social media, where you can join us in our conversation and stay updated on the latest news and episodes. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you once again for being part of the Voice of the People, USA Radio, and TV Network. We look forward to bringing you more exciting content in our upcoming episodes. Until next time, take care.